Welcome to the AM News, the very first news bulletin on the JoyNews channel. I'm Sweetie Abochi, bringing you details now. 3 radio stations owned by Ashanti Regional NPP Chairman Bernard Entwi-Boisiakon, popularly known as Chairman Wontumi, have gone off air after the National Communications Authority withdrew their licenses for breaching electronic communications regulations. The NCA says the stations failed to address violations such as the unauthorized use of Studio 2 transmitter link frequencies and unapproved transmitter locations. Officials say an earlier amnesty period was granted for the breaches to be rectified, but the stations did not comply. My colleague Michael Ashali was at Wontumi FM in Accra and reports.
On May 12, 2025, the National Communications Authority announced plans to withdraw the licenses of more than 60 non-compliant radio stations. The move sparked public backlash, prompting President John Dramani Mahama to intervene. The stations were then given 30 days to resolve the infractions. 3 months on, the NTA says the grace period has long expired and the licenses of 6 stations have been revoked. While most affected operators took steps to comply, 3 other stations, all owned by Chairman Wontumi, failed to fully remedy the breaches. Here in Accra, Wontumi 95.9 FM is currently off air. And we can confirm with the radio currently with me. That's exactly what we are getting, static throughout the day. In Kumasi and Takrady, sister stations have also gone off air. The mood in the office is tense and uncertain. Movement TV, operating from Wontumi FM and owned by Chairman Wontumi, continues broadcasting as staff focus on the station, while the parent company fights to overturn the NCA's decision. The Wontumi cluster of radio stations affected by the latest suspension from the NCA have now sent an urgent appeal to the NCA, appealing to it to reconsider its suspension and withdraw that directive. For JoyNews, Michael Ashali.
To combat the growing issue of opioid abuse among Ghanaian youth, the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment has launched a critical research study on International Youth Day, August 12, 2025, led by Sector Minister George Opariado. Now, the study aims to uncover the root causes and underlying factors driving substance abuse within the youth demographic. We'll tell you more in this report.
Government has taken significant steps to address the growing concern of opioid abuse amongst its youth. On March 28, 2025, a nationwide campaign titled Red Means Stop was launched to raise awareness, prevent and intervene early in opioid addiction cases. As part of ongoing efforts, the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment has initiated a comprehensive research study to understand the root causes and extent of substance abuse amongst Ghanaian youth, aligning with International Youth Day celebrations on August 12. Sector Minister George Opariado explains the aim of the research to JoyNews.
We have a problem on our hand, but we don't know the gravity of the problem. We don't also know what the main contributing factors are. We know that it's prevalent within young people, but we have different demographics. What we seek to do is to properly understand what the dynamics are, what is contributing to it, and why young people are using it. It is when we have this background, when we are able to understand it this way, then we can sit at the decision table and then look for lasting solutions. A lot of the solutions have been a bit ad hoc, and so we want to go past that, and that is why we've commissioned this report.
After receiving a generous donation of 500,000 Ghana cedis from the RNAQ Foundation to support the initiative, Mr. George Opariado said the donation will significantly enhance the research efforts.
It will go a long way. Because the research alone is costing us about 400,000, so we'll expand the scope. He's researching in all 16 regions, but his sample size, we can make him increase the sample size so that we get a more good understanding of what the problems are.
The founder of the RNAQ Foundation, Richard Ni Amakwe, also highlighted that this contribution marks the crucial first step in supporting the Ministry of Youth Development effort to combat substance abuse amongst young people.
I could see from experience how the abuse of opioid and drug abuse is affecting a lot of youth in some African countries, especially Sierra Leone. And I think that our country is also on the path of taking the same trajectory. So today we are here to assure the Minister and his team that from the RNAQ Foundation, we understand the threats that we are facing as a nation, and we are solely committed to work hand in hand with you to be able to actually confront these threats head on. And so we have come here to do a presentation of 500,000 Ghana cedis to the ministry today.
The campaign, Red Moon Stop, is on, and the research into the causes of the abuse has been commissioned to be unveiled by ending of this month. Mamavi Savakote's report for JoyNews.
The diplomatic community in Ghana is pouring in their messages of solidarity as the nation mourns the tragic passing of 8 victims of the helicopter crash that occurred last week. Drawn from various parts of the world, the ambassadors, while signing a book of condolences opened at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, say they stand with the people of Ghana.
On behalf of me and our President, Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, and our government and all the Palestinian people, I'd like to convey all our condolences to the Ghanaian people. We stand with their families, with the government of Ghana, with the President of Ghana, of course.
And we will mourn, the Russian Federation mourn with Ghanaians on this tragic event that happened on the 6th of August this year in the Ashanti region. And we hope that this tragic events will make the Ghanaian nation stronger.
And the spirit of the unity, we are confident that Ghana will go through this phase.
We, the people of Kenya, especially His Excellency President Ruto, the people of Kenya and the government of Kenya feels deeply the sorrow which the Ghanaian people and the government of Ghana and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is going through during this tragic moment. These are fallen heroes, people who are on the line of duty, and we feel that this is a great loss for Ghana.
So I brought forward the condolence on behalf of the Czech government and the Czech nation. Our collaboration with Ghana, of course, is very long-standing, and we mourn with Ghana in this very difficult moment.
No, but I just expressed my sorrow, my grief, and my sincere condolences to everyone who knew the victims of this tragic incident and accident.
Amid recurring water shortages in Akotochiri and its environs, the Iowa-based project of Hope Foundation has delivered a lifeline, donating a borehole and water tank to Our Lady of Assumption Catholic Church, bringing renewed hope of safe drinking water to residents in the area and surrounding communities who are deprived of this basic necessity. In an interview, Father Francis Valentin Odum said the foundation's goodwill is inspired by biblical principles, noting that its mission for the past 5 years is to provide safe drinking water to communities without access.
Through its Wells for Ghana project, the Project of Hope Foundation donated a borehole and a reservoir tank to the Our Lady of Assumption Catholic Church located in Akotochiri, Cape Coast. Speaking in an interview, the priest in charge of the church, Father Francis Valentine Odum shared his hopes of the donation not just serving the Akototri community, but its surrounding areas as well.
In this community, we have, thankfully, we have access to water from Ghana Water Company. But as we know in Ghana, perennial water shortages, and also we still have those households that do not have access to Ghana Water Company. So people assess other wells that we feel are not as portable and clean as possible. So Projects of Hope Water in Akototri will obviously be help and health giving to this community around us.
One of the sponsors of the donation, a professor at the St. Ambrose University in Davenport, Iowa, Dr. Monica Forrest, commended the efforts of the foundation.
I cannot say how proud I am that and impressed that Project of Hope Ghana has built over 50 wells to provide villages with clean water. It's just amazing. I think it is a miracle, and it's the hard work through this Project of Hope team. And I know that there are a lot of supporters in Iowa. Back home, Father Francis was the priest for so many different churches there, and they all love him and are so happy to be able to support this effort, so to provide for the health and well-being of communities.
The church president of the Our Lady of Assumption Catholic Church, Faustina Owusu-Ansah, shared some words of gratitude.
I'm very excited about what we are doing today. I would like to thank Reverend Father Valentine Odum, because through him that this project came to our aid. Project of Hope, I will thank them too, because through them we have gotten clean water. And it's not purposely serving only the church members, but also serving the community. We are much grateful to the Project of Hope.
From Akototri in Cape Coast, Abigail Lisol in Kuma reports for JoyNews.
Now, the distributed IoT platforms, privacy and edge intelligence research, that is DIPA Lab at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, has held a stakeholder engagement session with healthcare workers, including general practitioners, pediatricians, nurses, lab technologists, among others. The engagement was organized to present and receive feedback on several low-cost medical innovations developed by the lab to improve neonatal care and reduce infant mortality in Ghana. Speaking at the event, Reverend Dr. Prince Odame, Child Health and Innovation Team Lead at DIPA Lab, explained the rationale behind the initiative. There's more in this report.
The lab showcased a range of medical devices and tools focused on neonatal health, including affordable phototherapy units for treating jaundice, automated exchange transfusion devices, an AI-based jaundice detection system, color-coded thermometers, sleep apnea monitoring devices, and low-cost incubators. Speaking at the event, Reverend Dr. Prince Odame, Child Health and Innovation Team Lead at DIPA Lab, explained the rationale behind the initiative.
We decided to have the stakeholder engagement because we cannot sit in the lab, conceptualize the problem, come up with a solution, and then after I've gotten the solution, we're happy ourselves that we have a solution. What we actually want to do is to have real life impact. We want the solutions that we come up with to be adopted in the medical circles and actually end up saving lives at the hospitals. So we decided to bring the major players, in the health industry here today, to engage them, to show them what we have, to have them make input into what we have, to alert us on the ones that will work and the ones that will not work, so that at the end of the day, these devices can be adopted by them and be used in our hospitals to save lives.
Despite some progress, Ghana continues to record a high number of newborn deaths due to preventable causes such as jaundice, respiratory distress, and hypothermia. Experts have emphasized the need for homegrown, low-cost interventions that can be used in resource-constrained settings. Dr. Adomo Odame is the Deputy Team Lead of the DIPA Lab, Child Health and Innovation Team.
as a pediatrician working in child health, seeing newborns die, we realize that it's very important for us to, as much as possible, develop interventions, low-cost interventions, easily usable within our environment that can save lives of newborns. So that's one of the reasons why I'm on board with this whole concept of development of devices and AI tools that will help reduce mortality of our newborns and our children in general. Because the mortality rates for Ghana, even though they have come down, they are not where we want. And even every single death is a death which is too much. So that's why we are in this, trying to build devices.
The engagement drew participation from pediatricians across the country, many of whom expressed strong support for the lab's approach. Dr. Eugene Mate, the Ashanti Regional Chair of the Pediatric Society of Ghana, was impressed by the lab's innovations and highlighted the importance of the devices.
One common condition that actually brings a lot of children to the ICU and contributes a lot to mortality is pneumonias and respiratory failure. So I was really excited to hear our biomedical engineers thinking of innovative ways and affordable ways to make sure we have adequate supply of CPAP machines. That is one of the important or key non-invasive respiratory support that we can have for our children. So I'm really excited and I look forward to more innovation from Deepa Lab.
The stakeholder meeting marks a significant step in bridging the gap between biomedical research and frontline healthcare delivery in Ghana, with a shared goal of reducing preventable deaths among newborns.
I'm handing you over to Samuel Kojo-Brace, who is excited to bring you business update now.
Well, let's start the business update with an industry I so love. The Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana is asking government to be strategic about its quest to cut the import bill of palm oil by $2 billion by the end of the year. According to the Chamber, although the policy is feasible, government must be deliberate about innovative data research to achieve the set target. Anthony Morrison is the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana.
We also need to be looking at what are the various innovations we can bring on board. We need to look at the researchers. We need to look at the dynamics. Because, for instance, when you go to Malaysia, Malaysia is having huge challenges with the palm production, okay, as a result of environmental issues and challenges with food security and other areas of affecting. But, you know, palm in itself is also a huge industrial commodity, at the same time a domestic commodity. So we need to balance the two. What, for us, is our technical advantage? Are we looking at the export market? Are we looking at the industries? And we are looking at also feeding the domestic market. So quite clearly, palm is a major factor in several of the things that we do, both at the manufacturing level, which is industry, even at pharmaceutical level. There are some biscuits and lipsticks that we use palm to do, and a lot of people do not know about that. Even in the aviation sector, we use palm to do a lot of things. And also, when it comes to our household chops, everybody like the copper. We like our favorite green with the red on it. So it's quite clearly and also palm has become a West Africa thing.
Now, away from that, the Deloitte Ghana has cautioned government against its plan to return to the capital markets due to improved macroeconomic environment and the resultant upgrades by the international credit rating agencies. The following report captures more.
According to the professional services firm, the government must take recycling lessons from historical mistakes to avoid a repeat of the debt hangover experienced over the last 3 years. Deloitte Ghana gave the caution following the 2025 mid-year review budget. It added that reliance on foreign debt must be moderated, with inflows strictly channeled into strategic capital investment that can adequately support repayment of such loans. As of the end of June 2025, Ghana's total public debt had reduced by 113.7 1.7 billion Ghana cedis, representing 15.6% reduction from 726.7 billion Ghana cedis as at the end of December 2024 to 613 billion Ghana cedis in June 2025. This was mainly on the account of the appreciation of the Ghana cedi.
Well, let's conclude the business update with what's happening on the commodities market. That's all in our business update for you today. There's more on my JoyNews.com/business. Coming up next is sports here on the AM Show.
Many thanks for your time on the AM Show this morning. It's the midweek edition, and it's time for us to review the newspapers. I like that Kojo and I are matching colors today. Stay with us. But before we introduce our guest to you, I want to tell you about our main sponsor for the AM Show, Syntex Tanks. Ghana, let's talk about water tanks, because you do know that the real secret to real water storage is simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's not the correct tank. That's right. The tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is the champion of water tanks. It is strong and durable and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. So rain or shine, Syntex tank has got your back. So as you hear my voice, go outside and check your tank. And if it doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. If you want to get in touch, this is the number to call: 0244 335 168 to either buy one now or find one of our 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at www.syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough. Today's Wednesday, and our guest for the news review, we have Dr. Kwame Asasante. He's a political scientist and the head Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Good morning, sweetie. I'm very well. And yourself? And good morning to Kojo, and then, of course, my colleague, Dr. Abedu, and our viewers.
It's always good to see you, Doc. Thanks for joining. And we also
good to see you too.
Right. Dr. Pakwesi Abedu, he's a development analyst. Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Good morning, sweetie. How are you too?
I'm fabulous. Thanks for asking.
You are glowing this morning.
Thank you. Suleiman Brahima will join us later. He's the Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Could you take it away from now?
Well, when my friend Abedu was praising, sweetie, Abedu forgot that I'm also here, that he has to pray.
Abedu, don't be biased. Please compliment Kojo.
Anyway.
Don't be jealous.
Can you even challenge a lady to compliment? You cannot. A woman is always a woman. But let's start as we do always, by giving you a maximum of 2 minutes to give us your reflections. Let's start with you, Dr. Kwame Asasante.
I beg you today, don't give me 2 minutes. If you can give me 3 or 4, I'll be most glad. Okay. But I'll start with I have 2 issues, but I'll make it snappy.
Okay.
Right. I want to look at the Minister for, what's the name? My good friend, Minister for Interfaith and Economic Relations.
He's an envoy, a special envoy for
envoy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Elvis.
So my senior and friend, Mr.
Friankra.
Yeah. He put out a statement, and I have some perspective I want to share with my audience.
Okay.
The whole issue he's talking about is that, men of God who have anything called prophecy and spiritual insights of a national character should send them to his office for review and then for escalation and the rest of them. I think we know the content of his letter, and I'll go straight away with this. There are a few things that bother on my mind, and I want to share with the public. That proposal, right? I want to begin by saying that I'm not against any religious leader who is blessed with the power to see things beyond the ordinary eye, and then the power to know what is ahead and what is bound to happen. I have no problem with that. And I also respect every religious faith. Be you a Christian, a Muslim, or a traditionalist like my good self. I'm not a Christian, I'm a traditionalist. I respect all views and I share all opinions. But when it comes to issue that border on the state and then it dovetails into policy, then I am alive and I come in handy. Why am I saying that? If you look at the envoy's proposal, the issue he put up, one, you can look at I want to find out who is going to conduct the review of all the prophecies that people have and they want to share with the seat of government. Who is going to do that? And what will be the canon for assessing that? The criterion for selecting people who qualify or whose prophecy qualify for attention. Who is going to do that? And who is that individual who has what it takes to be able to look at all that, sift through and say this one is likely to happen and this one is not? Obviously, it's going to create a problem. Am I thinking something right or wrong that you want to create jobs for some people? And I don't want to believe that, because this government has gone through a lot and it has all manner of experience that things of this nature you want to be very careful. So I am very happy with the position of the Christian Council that they say they are looking at this and then they are going to share their perspective with the presidency. Let's also look at another aspect of it is what? Is it a public policy? And when we say public policy, we are talking about what government decide to do or not to do. Is that what government want to do? And public policy is driven by what? Taxpayers' money. So once you bring the taxpayer in, I'm asking myself, who is going to fund this review, this analysis and all that? Is it going to be borne out of the public purse? Then there's a problem. Because what would be the objective of this exercise? Is there any law that is able to deal with the problems that this policy want to cure? And if the answer is yes, why don't you trigger that law and make society better? All right. Then I move on into, if you accept this as a policy and you want to implement it, how long is it going to be in effect? Have you taken that into consideration? And above all, you want to also know that if you introduce this, what happens to the place of science in our life, where we are looking at things from the perspective of cause and effects? The accident that has occurred, what is the cause? What is the effect? Is that not what we are interested in? And this government has promised us that they want to continue the teaching of science and the TVET education and all that. When you say all these things, how do we juxtapose this thing on what? Scientific inquiry and scientific analysis, which we know the scientific truth is what? Universal truth, and it's verifiable, and it's accessible. You can verify. Things of religious nature, how are we going to verify that? How are we going to assess that? It becomes a problem. What is the modus operandi of those who profess these things to us? We have seen them, some of them, of course. There are very genuine religious leaders which we have known since time immemorial. And their work continue to be what? Tall in the eyes of the ordinary man. But we have seen also charlatans and people who want to milk the state dry or individuals in. Have we taken into consideration all these people and that we want to open the floodgate for all of them to come? All right. When my last bit of it is that what is the policy implication towards the following? Towards non-high public or individuals within the state? Because the statement says that high political officers and all that. What about individual families and homes? If there is any prophecy against them, is the state interested in they also coming in, or as for them, it doesn't matter? What is the implication of this towards science and acquisition of scientific knowledge and the use of scientific knowledge? Have we also looked at what this thing brings to bear in terms of stability and cohesion in the state? Where some of these things talk about death, and it creates fear and panic in the eyes of the ordinary man. Have we looked at that? What about the issue of poverty we are dealing with? There are certain communities which have sent their messages through their MPs, through their various channels to government that, look, they don't have, potable water, very important things of life, basic, they don't have. Have we forgotten about this and want to deal with it, use taxpayers' money to do this? And of course, what is the implication on governance, democracy, and the general welfare of our people? I want to submit, and with respect, and that my good friend, Mr. Ankra, should take a second look and look at these things from a very sober, informed, and all the good things that we can be brought to bear on this matter and take and guide his policy.
Right.
I will conclude that, look, he shouldn't start something that it will be very difficult to sustain. Because, look, we are dealing with poverty. We are dealing with governance. We are dealing with the galamsey. These are issues that continue to knock at our doors. And what is the solution to this?
All right.
I want my senior and my good friend, Ms. Ankra, to look at this critically and then see the way forward that will inure to the benefit of this country. I will conclude by looking at a few things on the accident. It is unfortunate that Ghanaians have lost giants and have lost people who were dedicating their lives to the service of this country. My own good friend and my student, Mutala, is gone. Very, very painful. And then other Ghanaians who also lost their lives. Families are crying. But one thing that I saw a few things, and I want to also express my concern.
Right, Doc. Perhaps we can get back. Doc, perhaps we can get back to this other the things you want to express your thoughts on after we've given the other guests a time to reflect.
I think I respect. It's fair.
So
it's
in the
fair.
course of the conversation, I'll get back to you on that. Yeah.
Fair point.
We have Suleiman Abrahima. He's Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. So let's hear your thoughts for us this morning. You have about 2 minutes to walk us through any reflections you may have on a national issue.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for having me. I will talk about something that is quite personal, and this relates to the conduct of national security in relation to press freedom. I've had the occasion to send a signal or a warning that if President Mohammed's government doesn't take care, current national security establishment is what would worsen the country's press freedom. In the process, deeply embarrassed.
Dr. Abeidu, kindly mute your microphone for us. When we get back to you, then you can unmute it.
Ultimately, perhaps even bring the government down. Because I think increasingly the national security is gaining some notoriety when it comes to press freedom and freedom of expression. And that is really deeply worrying. Yesterday, we reported an incident where my two colleagues from our Fourth Estate project were actually called by National Security's Director of Special Operations, Mr. Japa, to abort an interview that had been scheduled. This was an interview that had been agreed to with the Director General Ghana Health Service. The journalists get there. He requests that the meeting be moved from his office to the Rich Hospital or the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. They get there. And then he calls someone that he was with to say that, call me National Security. ostensibly not, willing to grant the interview. And this is an interview about a public interest matter for which we feel he has some questions to respond to. We don't want to come up with a story and then somebody turns out to say that, but why didn't you talk to the person either involved or the person who is at the helm of affairs of the Ghana Health Service? And so I don't see what the threat was, what the security implications or whatever was. Then this person says, oh, call national security. And within moments, Japa calls one of the journalists and says, what are you there doing? The journalist says, oh, we are here because we've been invited for this interview. We had agreed with this person to do the interview. Then he asks, interview about what? Then the journalist says, oh, but why should I be telling you about the interview that I'm coming to do with a subject of a story that I'm doing? Then he says, oh, if you know you have a story to do or you have an interview, why don't you do RTI? And then eventually says, you must leave the place immediately, in a very, very threatening tone. And I am wondering where we are getting into. How all of a sudden national security is interested in stories that journalists are doing, is interested in, what interviews journalists are doing with public officials and all of that. This is quite bizarre. And as I said before, I think people who have power today, and Mr. Japa knows that they just got power just about 7 months ago, they should use it wisely. Because I don't think that the power is about your capacity to deploy tanks or your capacity to use arms and weapons. The power is about the support that the people have for you. And people of Ghana voted for President Mahama because they wanted a change to what was happening.
Right.
They didn't vote for President Mahama to come to power so that people can have power and abuse it. And they should also remember that even under military regimes, even under PNDC and all the military regimes, journalists were not silenced, and they cannot silence journalists. We will continue to do what we have to do. And I believe that President Mahama, being somebody, as he said, and we know, a member of the GJA, somebody who has been within the media fraternity for long, would not look on for these people to destroy the president credentials of our country under his leadership.
Right. May I ask if that question Mr. Japa asked is valid, whether or not the information you were looking for through the interview you could have got it if you had filed an RTI? Is that something?
Should it now be the mandate of national security to determine for journalists how they get their information? and before the RTI law was passed in 2019, were journalists not doing interviews? Were journalists not gathering information? The question is, should it be national security's job now to determine for journalists how they must get information?
Right.
I mean, we know, you know very well that in terms of the RTI law, perhaps we have been the biggest users of it. And we decide at what point we think this matter, let's file an RTI request to seek information. And that is when we need, let's say, information from a public institution. This is what we need. Can you help us with this information? But even when we get that information, we will still have to follow up with an interview if we feel the persons there need to clarify something or respond to certain things, even when information has been provided through RTI.
Exactly.
Is Mr. Japa telling us that he is now the editor for editors in this country, the one who determines how journalism should be done, because today he is a national security operative? I don't think that is how this country must be governed.
Right. Well, thank you. And please keep us updated how that story is developed eventually if you get the information. And it's time for us to listen
but you see, before you take you go to Dr. Abedu, I think people in government should not think they are the people who should decide how people live their lives or go about their businesses. We are journalists. We go about to get a story and tell. Now, you know that we are enjoying to get two sides of a story. So if we are getting the other side of the story, and someone will sit somewhere and take a phone and call you to say, why are you, I mean, the man, is he even controlled by the national security? Is that what we are being told? That today, if any government appointee wants to conduct an interview with a pressman, he or she has to go to national security for clearance. Is that what it is now? I mean, we are in this country and people, like Mr. Brima said, people abuse the authority. Because you're the national security coordinator, you can then intervene in anything someone does, especially when this is not a crime. This is a journalist going about his or her work, trying to get to the bottom of a matter. So today you're telling us that, oh, if Amma says Mr. Jakpa has shot someone, we just come and sit on radio and say, okay, yes, that is it. We cannot call you to get your side of the story. I mean, this is something that I expect the minister for, I mean, now he's not an entire minister, but Felix Ofosu-Kwakye should speak on this. The National Security Coordinator cannot and should not be allowed to dictate to people how they should go about their work, especially when it comes to storytellers, journalists trying to go about their duty. I think that this one, we have to tell Jakpa in the face that even though he's a national security coordinator, he has no authority or no balls to tell journalists what we have to do. After what? That if the journalist does not obey, you send thugs and men to go and beat him or her. Right. And then what? This world is, this life is this a journey. So Mr. Jakpa should be told in plain language that he should know, as Mr. Brima said, he should know where to draw the line. People and women who have been employed, who have been given positions, should not be dictated to how they should do their work.
Hopefully, because Suleiman Brima has called on the president, we can actually see this, bring some clarity to this matter, because he's in charge of special operations, and I do not really understand. I cannot connect the dots, and I think we all share the same sentiment on that. Why is he interested in this? But let's go to Dr. Pakwesi Abedu now. He's a development analyst, and it's time for us to hear what his reflections are. Doc, take it away.
Thank you, sweetie. And Kojo, you are looking good also this morning. You see, I want to touch briefly on the issues raised by Dr. Sasanti. I really understand his sentiments, his questions, the science of whatever is behind the directive issued by the presidential envoy for, the prophecies and the issues that has arose. You see, we as a country, we have really closed our eyes on integrating religion and culture in our national development. And I think that is where the problem is. Really, you see, there are some contemporary scholars who argue that the best way to develop a nation is by developing the people, the human resources, by looking at their moral capacity and other components of the human development, so that through that we'll be able to influence culture and develop the economy or develop the people. And so whenever we are looking at religion, as depending on your school of thought, you may see it as an important component of development planning or as an important component for ensuring that your country develops. You see, whether we like it or yes, depending on how you feel about religion, we cannot deny the fact that it has a role in human development. Why? Because religion offers so many opportunities for us. It fosters unity, it promotes love, a sense of brotherhood, and so many ethnic and cultural, social, and even economic opportunities within that space. However, the problem is all about how do we coordinate religion, culture, and then into the broader space of development planning. That is where we are getting it wrong. And I think the last time we're even discussing how we are failing to plan our country as far as the development path is concerned. Why must this directive come at a point where, because there was a certain incident, all of a sudden, this directive will come out? Is it a reactionary Dr.
Abedu, we spoke to Elvis Efriankra 2 days ago, and he clarified that it's not a directive. This is just a suggestion he's making as an envoy, someone in that position asking the prophets to do what he asked. But let's not call it a directive.
It is thank you very much for the correction. But it is because of the sensitivity, the position that the person is, and how it has impact or how it can influence national development discourse. That is why even today we are all discussing about it, and we agree that it's an important issue for us to discuss.
True.
Okay. So, however you want to call it, at the end of it all, how did it react to the incident that happened, and what informed this suggestion? Is it because a certain incident happened, that is why we are now looking at it? Or it is something that we have planned or we have thought of as a country to really look at religion, prophecy, and all the other issues that comes with religion and culture into our development planning or development discuss? We need to be serious in this country. Look, until we accept, and I'm bringing out this argument based on one economic theory we call the structural functionalist theory, where we accept that every component of the economic system, from religion to politics to governance to all the other, democracy, they all play a certain role in ensuring that we have a holistic development. We behave as ostriches when it comes to issues of, religion, vis-a-vis how it can be integrated into our development. And it is really hurting us. We need to find ourselves very clearly. Is that the way we want to go? If we want to mimic or we want to copy countries like the Arabians or the Arabs and some other countries which have built their countries or their economies on religion, we need to define ourselves very well. If not, let's have a clear path as to how we want to grow this country. Okay. We can't be treating issues on ad hoc basis, on reaction, or based on when something happens and then we want to react to it.
Okay.
Will it be sustainable in the first place?
Okay.
And what are the other issues that come with it? And you see, now we are talking about prophecies. What about those ones coming from the Islamic religion and even the traditionalists? What happens to them? So we need to have a broader conversation about this so that it wouldn't be of kind of a knee-jerk approach to solving an issue. In any case, the report from the incidents hasn't come out. What were the causes of the accident?
Okay.
The causes was religion part of it. So Sammy, let's be serious, and I think Sri Lanka should come again. Okay. And let's look at how this thing can be addressed effectively. But I want to add a second issue.
Sorry, Dr. Abedu. Okay, let me give you the time. Yes.
Yes, it's also about the cause by people to look at how we can glorify, how we can, for the lives lost, how we can make the mining sector, solve the problem in the mining sector, so that at least the effort by the gallant men who unfortunately died can be appreciated. My point or my suggestion is that it is not just about the small-scale mining sector. We need a holistic reform in our entire mining sector. And this is the time for us to be very radical about this. It's a good opportunity for us to be very radical about it, have an abstract and a very disruptive intervention to ensure that the rhetorics around our mining sector is resolved and that we are able to promote sustainable mining once and for all.
Right.
This is my suggestion this morning.
Thank you. Okay. So from national security interfering in the work of journalists to whether or not that statement coming from the ecumenical office. What stories are we getting into next?
Let me bring you the daily graphic, and on the front page says 9 radio stations shut over regulatory breaches. The Evolution Conference in Kenya, Jaspon Group showcases waste management innovations. UPSA launches 60th anniversary celebrations. Helicopter crash, President unveils support fund Friday. Dependent of 8 patriots to benefit. But let me start with the 9 stations shut over regulatory breaches. It says the National Communications Authority has suspended the operations of the 9 radio stations across the country for regulatory infractions, including failure to comply with broadcasting laws and operating without the required certification. The affected media organizations include 3 stations operating under Wuntumi Multimedia Company Limited, whose management has claimed that, contrary to the cited infractions, the company has complied with the relevant requirement. Let's start with you, Suleiman Abrahima, because you are someone that, when it comes to media, you really have a passionate, you have passion for it. How do we go about this? We remember that some days ago, the ministry issued this particular warning that the president had given some 30-day amnesty to some stations to rectify some anomalies. But the NCA today is telling us that these 9 stations have not been able to do it. I mean, if they haven't, then they carry their cross, not so.
Well, I would say absolutely. We are a country governed by laws. This whole thing about shutdown, if you recall, under the previous regime, there was a similar incident of shutdown of over 50 radio stations. At that time, we took issue with the way and manner it was done, because we had established that quite clearly it was a politically motivated exercise that was carried out to shut down media houses that were aligned with the opposition NDC then. And this was borne out by facts and data from the NCA that clearly showed that there were a number of media houses that had committed the same infringement but were allowed to be on air because, supposedly they were aligned to persons in government at the time. And so we fought it to the point where we did an RTI law, it was not granted, we went to court to battle it and all of that. So about 2 or so months ago, when the NCA issued a similar statement ordering the shutdown of close to, I think, 60 radio stations, we had to again probe the matter to be sure that this was not an exercise that was, based on politics. And for us, our concern has always been that if the law is being enforced, it must be enforced equitably and fairly. If people are being sanctioned for breaching the laws, any other person found to have breached the law must also suffer the same consequence. Otherwise, then you allow people to operate. And we were provided with the data and the evidence that proved that indeed the stations had infringed on the frequency authorization regulations in one way or the other. So it was gratifying that the president had given the period, because we are a country where people feel they can do just anything, and so sometimes people can be overtaken by circumstances, and so they may have flouted the law not out of the intention to do so. Now, yesterday's statement indicated that 6 of the stations had not even made the effort to remedy the situation that they were found in. And so for me, perhaps that is an indication that they are no longer interested in even holding the frequency that had been granted to them. And I don't think that we should say that because of media freedom or anything, anybody at all should just grab a frequency and start operating. Otherwise, the next day I can, also grab 99.7, which is run by Joy, and before you realize I'm doing a parallel broadcast, and somebody else would grab a television frequency and start broadcasting. I don't think that we can entertain that as a country. It would even be a danger for press freedom itself. And so, yes, if the 9 that we are told did not come back at all have been shut down, I think that is the way to go. Now, on the Wontumi 3, we are told that in Kumasi and Takoradi also, it's about studio to transmitter link that they are supposed to, position or relocate, that they haven't. And it has implications on interfering with other neighboring broadcasters. I think that's a very simple matter. And the owners of the station must just do the needful in terms of complying so that the airwaves are properly regulated. Yesterday I heard that the lawyers for Wontumi had indicated no, they had complied with certain directives and perhaps is an oversight on the part of the NCA. If it is true, that's unfortunate. And if it is true, I think the NCA would also have to remedy the situation on their end. But if the situation is as it was in terms of non-compliance, then I think we should get people to comply with the law.
If the situation is non-compliance, like you say, suspension is enough? I mean, if that 30-day window is expired and they still haven't done what they're supposed to do, should we be looking at revoking the license altogether, or the suspension is okay? Because the suspension means that at some point in time they can return to operations.
Yeah. Well, I think the frequency that was granted to each of these stations remains, and before it is reallocated or basically taken back, I think the idea is that in the interest of press freedom, citizens' right to access information and all of that, it's important we still give the first right of refusal to the persons who had applied for them. And I think basically that is the process that is ongoing, and I believe that is fair.
Okay. Well, let's listen to Dr. Kwame Asante now on this matter. Doc?
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll look at the two issues, the radio stations that have been shut down, and then the crash and the support for families of those who lost their lives. Let me begin with the 9 radio stations that have been closed down. Democracy hinges on rule of law. And rule of law has 2 components: equality before the law and due process. So everybody is equal before the law. And that the other component is that nobody can take a decision that runs counter with the laws of the land. On that score, everything that we do is prescribed by law. So if there is a law, a procedure, or what we call in podcast an institution that we need to follow them rigidly so as to ensure that we benefit from the dividends of what? Rule of law, and by extension, democracy. So I think that they give them grace period. If they fail to do so, whatever sanction there is applied. A very simple matter. But I also agree that it should be what? Fairly treated. People must be given fair treatment. There should not be any political manipulations in there so as to favor one group against the other. Then the law becomes what? A very dangerous tool used to regulate the conduct of people, because you and I know that law is a useful instrument to regulate the conduct of people. People who want to broadcast, they don't want to follow the rules of the game. People who want to churn out information, who want to share information, there are rules. So when they do follow them, yes, we reward them by maintaining them in the system. If they don't, and we find out that many people who are involved are guilty of that crime, obviously they must be dealt with. All that I'm saying, that let the law take its course, but there should not be discrimination. It should be fair and just. That said, I'll move on to the crash and the support for victims of the crash. Very good policy. It's good because when these are the things that urge people to continue to support their state and give up their best when they are put in positions of authority. That when I die in the line of duty, the state will take care of my family and all that. Good news. But my concerns that I've had relative to the start of this crash and all the matters associated is what I'm going to share. I saw that when we look at the accident, issue of ethics and professionalism were thrown to the dogs. Look at the forest, the accident scene, and what happens. People were doing things which were very unprofessional. I'm not a medical scholar or not, but at least I'm a human being that I understand basic ethics or ethical rules and all that. Ethics were thrown to the dogs. People taking pictures whilst showing us gory pictures, which were so offensive. All right, and it's sad to see that. Look, we saw that people were busy doing other things. Human beings remains were put in sacks and all that. Later we hear excuses that body bags were sent there. They should have shown us in the pictures that these were the body bags. We didn't get that. They were very offensive to families, to Ghanaians who have lost. And I also saw something, the social media effect. Come on, there were pluses that I'll give to them. People who were concerned and people who were urging people to do the right things and all that. But there's some took it as, look, a field day and misbehaving and going against all the important rules of this country. Look, I was so worried. And then respect for the dead was nowhere seen anywhere, right? People saw it as opportunity to attack families, to attack individuals. And I asked myself, is that a Ghana that we know? And that brings to mind the issue of culture. Do we still have the Ghanaian culture that always want to respect the dead, respect families, respect virtues and all that? And I asked myself, my friends in sociology and co, they should come in and help us because we are in difficult times. Is that a culture that we know? That, look, there is death and people rejoice over it. There is pain and people are happy with this. This tells us that socialization has broken down completely. Homes where these things are taught, we don't no longer see this. Schools where these things are amplified, it's missing. And then institutions that are supposed to help us to deal with that. We give them scanty budget. They are not able to do what they are supposed to do. NCC, yes, they have their challenges, but I tell you, on a good day when you give them good budget, they'll be able to work. Have we resourced them enough to be able to educate our people, inculcate values in them, so as to have empathy for people in difficulty? I mean, all these things, I believe that they are the negatives of what we have seen so far. We need to right those wrongs, and of course, issue of our preparedness for emergency situations were completely broken down. I couldn't find NADMO. I couldn't find all the security apparatus that I expect that they will come and work. But you see, because of investigation, I will not delve into the matter too much, so as to disturb the course of investigation. Because there are a lot of things that we can also share or bring to bear. But I believe that, look, we should act as a society that will care for one another. And when there's pain, we should be able to acknowledge that and then do not cause more pain for family and friends. On that note, I'm saying that, look, let us respect that death will come and everybody is a matter of time. You remember when the vice president was sick? People were wishing her dead. Where from this? Please, all of us will die. Don't wish your brother or your sister dead. You will die. It's a matter of time.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Komiasa Asante. Dr. Abedu, on this NCA suspension of 9 licenses, you remember when the president intervened, the arguments were divided. Some were saying, what rights does he have to even intervene and ask for this grace period for the people? 30 days has elapsed. Is there anything we can learn from that? The president's plea or, plea of a sort, for want of a better word, that these people be given some grace period. And even after that, we have 9 of them who still fell short. Well, let's hear your reflections on the matter.
Yeah, thank you, sweetie. This is a very delicate matter, especially when it comes to the media and its role in our national development. And I'm happy Suleimana talked about the previous government and how their findings discovered that the actions which were taken by the then government was politically motivated. And so when those issue came up, when the president initially intervened, for me, from the angle of media and communication framework, I understood the president's actions to have stemmed from not trying to repeat what was done wrong in the past, kind of trying to right in the wrong by giving those stations the opportunity to do the right thing and to put things in order. But fast forward, these stations, per what the National Communication Authority pronounced, still didn't put things right. You see, there are two dynamics, there are two aspects to this issue. First is those stations which didn't comply or which didn't fully comply. What was the motivation? What was the intention? Is it that they didn't have the capacity to comply, or it was intentional? And if it was intentional, what are they seeking to achieve? You see, there are so many political angles to this. Someone can intentionally decide not to comply so that when you take an action, then the certain response will come like, yes, because you want to equalize what happened in the past government, you are doing the same thing, and you are trying to hunt us politically, or political witch hunt, or whatever you want to call it. And then it becomes a problem for the government. Maybe the government is trying to do the right thing, is trying to just apply the law. Now, if the institution has the capacity to do the right thing, why are they still not doing it? Is it that probably the NCA side is also not giving some opportunity for them to do the right thing? We need to understand that when it comes to these issues, it's about how we also connect it to the perception that we want to lay to the public out there. When you look at the authoritarian media theory, it talks about how sometimes governments can intentionally restrict some institutions not to talk against the government. Now, assuming that those who are not, the stations which are not trying to comply are intentional about their actions, then it ends up putting a certain propaganda, a certain misleading fact out there that the government is trying to suppress on our media freedom. The government is trying to give us opportunity to operate freely. And then it comes back to hurt, as far as the media and its freedom is concerned. If not so, then the station should understand that there is some level of responsibility for them to ensure that they do the right thing just for the sake of public perception, so that it wouldn't be like all the time a certain government is hunting or chasing some stations which they believe is not working in line with government interest, and it becomes quite disturbing. I also observed something on the media platforms when this issue came up. When you look at the NCA's communication, the 6 stations were listed first, and then those affiliated to Wound to Me were the second section. Now, the 3 stations related to Wound to Me, they had even done some, but they have not completed everything. Meanwhile, the first 6 stations, they had not attempted anything at all, per what I read. But interestingly, our media stations captured this reporter to look like Wound to Me and 6 others. Okay? Now, we are trying to highlight even the stations which have attempted to resolve the issues by now bringing them up, while those who have not done anything at all are being silenced in terms of how we are communicating to the public. And for me, all those things tend to infiltrate public perceptions and put out some misleading understanding in terms of even what the NCA is doing, what the ministry intends to do, and how we may want to politicize it. You see, the moment that politicization comes in, that is where people then begin to question what the NCA is doing and whether it is right or wrong, and so on and so forth. So I want to use this platform to urge also our media platforms. You see, we have a very big role to play when it comes to spewing credible information out there, spewing information which tends to align with the fact, and not necessarily trying to over-sensationalize issues just because you want to set a certain agenda or you want to pull viewership or listenership or whatsoever. Because the moment we try to massage these issues to suit our own interests as media stations, what it means also is that it tends to polarize the political space, where now fans or adherents or people who support will be like, okay, they have closed down with stations and even the rest, we don't even know what is happening to them, just because of the way you even caption your news bulletin or whatever. So I want to just urge the ministry to continue to engage them and possibly look at how the issues can be resolved. If they are not able to adhere, if they are not able to abide by what the law says they should do, then at least we all can agree to them that, hey, close them down or do whatever, or sanction them based on what the law says, so that we can have a sanctity within our media space.
Right.
Now,
No, make your point, because I wanted to ask a question to Suleiman, but Dr. Abedi, make your point.
So just the support to the families of the victims to the helicopter accident. Good intervention, good efforts out there. For me, all our admonition is that this must be sustainable. It doesn't have to be because something has happened. We want to do some public shows, especially those working for the military. We must take closer look at it. As for the political elite.
Looks like we have a network interruption. Kojo, maybe we can go to Suleiman and buy into.
Exactly. Mr. Brimer, I wanted to find out from you how we can end this cycle of certain radio stations' licenses being, suspended, and the sort of counter accusations that come on the NCA for doing the bidding of government, because that's what we do here. How can we end that such that when that directive is given, everyone accept that it is your fault? As we are saying, the records as you have seen indicate that the stations are at fault. How do we end that cyclical accusation of the NCA going about doing its work?
Well, I think first of all, transparency is always very important. If the process is always very transparent, then we all see what is happening. For example, the NCA says that this exercise is based on an audit that it conducted. It is important that the audit report is put out there for the public to see. I don't know what could be secretive about such an exercise. So that's number one. Again, the NCA in its past conduct did not help matters. In the earlier exercise under the MPP, when we went through the data of the NCA to establish that a number of radio stations had committed the same infraction and yet were not sanctioned as the others, the NCA decided to amend the way it presents its data. So previously, the NCA would have this quarterly bulletin, in which they would indicate the radio stations that have been authorized, given frequency authorization, when they got their frequency authorization, and the last time they did the frequency authorization renewal. So the process is that after you get your authorization, every 5 years you are supposed to renew. And so that data was very clear in saying that radio station A got it in 2014 and renewed in 2019. That is the 5 years. But the one they had indicated a station, for example, who got the authorization in 2006 and had not ever renewed, all the way till the 2019 when the exercise was conducted, and yet was allowed to be on air. So the question we asked them was that, we're looking at your own data. This station got it in 2006. They were supposed to renew in 2011, and were supposed to again renew in 2016. This is 2019. Your own data says that they had not renewed, and yet you allowed them to operate. Meanwhile, there's another station that got authorization in 2011, and the only time they were supposed to renew that they have not renewed was 2016. And yet they've been shut down. So why so? Now, confronted with that evidence, what they did was to remove the dates in their own data, so that if you go back, you don't see when a station got its first authorization and when they last renewed. I think that was very, very problematic, and it compromised the integrity of the data that is published by the NCA. I think it is important that the NCA reverts back to how they used to publish that data, so that publicly we can all go there and see that, oh, this station ought to have renewed by this time, per your data, they've not renewed. Why are they on air? And all of that. That's number one. Number two is that we've been talking about the broadcasting law for maybe close to 20-something years now. We cannot have an industry as robust and vibrant as the broadcast sector without any regulation. We basically have the Electronic Transactions Act and the NCA's law that we are using, but that governs only frequency authorization and not how media houses conduct themselves, for example. So today we are in a situation where if the NCA decides to shut down a radio station on the basis of content, that would be an infringement of the law. And yet the NMC, which has the mandate to act against media houses on the basis of content, does not control the frequencies. So we are in this kind of situation where one regulator that is supposed to act on content cannot act, and the regulator that controls the frequency cannot also act on the basis of content. I think it is important that we take the broadcasting law quite seriously. But otherwise, I don't think the whole thing about politics is important. It's about whether people have complied with the law or otherwise. And if they have not, I think that they need to be dealt with. The law needs to be enforced so that we can have sanity. Because otherwise, as I've said, we'll become a country of lawlessness, and people will decide to do whatever they want. It doesn't matter whether a station belongs to the NDC or belongs to the MPP, or persons belonging to MPP or NDC. If they go against the law must be enforced fully and fairly. For me, that's what's important.
That's a very interesting angle you introduced, the broadcasting bill, because I remember there was a conversation about it. There was Fatima, the former information minister, was in Parliament at some point on the same broadcasting bill, and so nothing was heard about it after that. So looks like we have to understand what's going on with that. But let's get into other newspapers now. The Ghanaian Times on the helicopter crash, Victims World Support Fund in the offing. Rise above narrow partisan interests, Vice President tells us Ghanaians. And Bese Manche, Dr. Park, others pay tribute in memory of victims. And Asiedu Nketia eulogizes Muntala on the back page. We can reduce oil bill by producing fuel from waste plastics, Professor Dankwa says. So this is what I'll do, gentlemen. I'm just going to give some headlines in the entire paper, and any of them that piques your interest, when I get to you, you can talk about that. So starting with, preacher remanded over alleged incest assault, 2 remanded over violent stolen vehicle, 3 suspects third suspect at large. Islamic ruling on the delay of Muslim burial in recent helicopter tragedy. It's a feature story in here. And Asiedu Nketia eulogizes Muntala. Ghana Link expresses sorrow over death of 8. Chief of Staff leads official delegation to console family of Omane Boama. And Victims World Support Fund in the offing. ADB presents 1 million Ghana Cedi cash prize to 2024 National Best Farmers and others. And prioritize capital expenditure to generate more revenue for debt repayment. I want to pause on this. ADB presenting 1 million Ghana Cedi cash prize to 2024 National Best Farmers. Not specifically on what ADB is doing, but how we award these farmers, what we give them, and how we make such a ceremony out of it when it's actually happening, when we're doing the awards. And right after that, we forget that agriculture is the backbone of this country's economy. I want to ask, Dr. Kwame Asasante, is there a way we can restructure how we award or what we do with this award system in terms of who is the best farmer and whatnot? Because you watch the ceremonies and they're giving them fridges and TV sets and, you don't understand what's going on. What do you make of this?
When you talk about awards and you want to make it very, very important, all that you need to do to set what a body that will look at it, there is a criteria for identifying those who qualify and all that. Once you get the basics right, you should be able to give the award to deserving persons. And the award should be something that will really kick them into doing what they are doing the more, and also help to emulate others to want to venture into that area. So if you have an award that frowns upon all these issues, then obviously it is award not worth giving to any human being. And that said, issue of agriculture is so important, but now it appears to me that the focus and direction towards it is gradually coming down. Look at issues that affect agri as an industry and how we are treating them. Issue of galamsey is virtually eating up the agri sector, particularly crops and then, vegetables, everything that is seen on the surface of the earth, which is put there as a crop or as a plant. Galamsey is having its toll on that. And what is it that the state is doing? It is this battle that we are fighting and that we have lost these ministers and the people of this country, and we have destroyed the ecosystem for our children and children. It is very, very sorry story. If you look at the problems farmers face, you ask yourself, after what happened? Do you take interest in their problems? Problem of marketing, problem of what? Post-harvest losses, problems of what? Even threats to the environment they operate in and the rest of them. All these things must be factored in so that you make the award complete than just giving the award to people. They only go back to face problems. They only go back and that the very environment they operate in is under threat. That will not be good enough. But the issue of what? Narrow partisan interest, which the Vice President talks about relative to this crash, it is important. When things of this nature happen, I believe that we are human beings and we must all come together and then fight for a common cause. The common cause here is what? You console the bereaved. You assuage the pain of others. And you put yourself into the shoes of those who are affected now and see that your actions, would they be the same from what you are doing now? If we are able to do that soul searching, we'll be able to live in a society that we believe in certain principles which we have put in our constitution, that at all times we try and unite this country. At all times we try to live in harmony, in peace with others. Is that what we are doing? When this thing occurred and the nation is grieving, is worrying, is mourning, you saw that it was a ceremony for people to seek vengeance and people to call people names, people to, as it were, add more assault into their injuries. It's unfair. It's not proper. And let us shy away from this and build a society that irrespective of our political differences, our political diversities, at the end of the day, when it comes to issues like this, we rally behind that common goal to bring smile on the faces of people who are affected. Look at advanced jurisdictions. When there are problems, even their government are able to make use of what? Previous leaders to go and become ambassadors of the state and speak to the issue. This is the culture we need to emulate and make our society better and fair.
Thank you. Sulemana, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. I think we've been doing this since the 1980s or so, National Best Farmer Awards. And is it enough to encourage others to even enter agriculture? Because that's the narrative we are trying to push, that more people, especially the youth, should go into agriculture. But the way we award and generally treat farmers in this country, is it enough?
Well, I certainly don't think so. Well, it's nice to see that the state will recognize a particular farmer or a group of farmers every year in recognition of whatever they are doing. Quite often, the people who end up being awarded are persons who are really relatively endowed and are able to venture into commercial farming, as a result of which maybe their production levels are high. If it is animals, thousands of cattle, 500 sheep, and so on and so forth. It's not a bad idea, but I think that as a country that has all that it takes to produce and feed ourselves, what is for me very important would be the economic policies that the government will roll out, or a government rolls out, that supports farmers, not only to produce, but also to be economically viable. I am a son of a farmer. My father was a farmer throughout his life until his death. And I grew up, in cocoa farms and in peasant farming settings. And I know how farmers suffer. You don't have to even go far. If you travel on the Aflao Road or you travel on the Koforidua Road, sometimes you see farm produce that are, basically getting destroyed, getting rotten, and, prices that are paid to farmers, essentially peanuts. And sometimes you wonder, how would they survive? I think we are all very happy when we say, food prices have come down. What normally we don't think about is, if it is down, what it means is that farmers are not making it. And so I think as a country, we need to have policies that ensures that farming is something that is, economically profitable. Yes, if we are happy that food prices have come down, what it could mean is that processing is up, and farmers would not have to throw their food away or sell for 1 cedi something that they would have sold for 10 cedis. So I think for me, it's about the policies that ensures that farmers can also make it in life, rather than essentially every year awarding a group of people who ordinarily are already doing so well. I think I should just basically also comment on this plane crash and the unfolding developments.
Yes.
I should say that when the incident happened, for the following 3 days, I was down. I mean, I felt terribly sick. I did not want to basically see, read, even hear about the developments. And this is because of how painful and how crushing it was. At least the two ministers, I know them very well. Dr. Omanibuama was somebody that I engaged from time to time. Honorable Mutala, the last time I engaged him was a program that we are trying to convene, and I wanted him to be part of it. And he said, let's arrange and meet. These are very, very affable people, affable individuals. Not because they are gone, that is why I'm saying this. But I think it would be great if all our ministers and senior public officials would behave the way these individuals used to behave. There are CEOs that you want to meet them, and it's even difficult to get to meet them than if you want to meet with the president. But these were individuals who were approachable, very reachable. It's sad, it's painful, and sometimes repeating these things perhaps even amplifies the pain that close friends and relatives may be enduring. I think, as others have said, we need to do something in this country that when their children grow up, they would be proud that their father's legacy, yes, their father died, their parents died painfully, but it's as a result of that death that the country changed this, or the country had this, and so on. And everybody is talking about the Galamsey menace and its devastation for the future of our country. It would be worthwhile if we have a situation where we say these 8 great people of Ghana, their death resulted in the end to something that was basically going to destroy this country. And I don't think that it is beyond us to do that. I have always said it is difficult to end Galamsey, but it is not impossible. It is sometimes politically difficult, but I think it has to be done, and it can be done. If the government of the day wants to do it, it can be done. All it takes is to ensure that dare the political consequences, dare the consequences for voting, and have it done. And you would be remembered as the person who saved this country. Let's do something to remember these people as the folks whose lives, after they lost their lives, we were able to do something to save this country. I think for me, that is what is so critical for us to do. Beyond that, any other thing, I think may end up being just cosmetics, as we do for everyone when they pass on.
But do you think that, do you think that we as a citizen, we as the people, we are doing enough to require more from our leaders? Was it Kabila also that said that it appears our attitude towards this fight has become lukewarm? I mean, coming from December 2024, when Ghanaians poured onto the street to register their displeasure and demand more, going through the threats of industrial action and organized labor pulling out at the last end. But do you think Ghanaians are as angry as we ought to be and require more from our leaders at this point? Sulemana?
Well, you see, when we talk about Ghanaians include the people in the trenches who are involved in Galamsey. And they have families, they have relatives who are benefiting from their labor. You go to the north today, and I'm from the north, and almost every young person who can do something economically, it's either down south, or it's either in school, or essentially predominantly in the Galamsey pits. And they will tell you, this house has been built because somebody went to Galamsey. This thing has been done because somebody went to Galamsey. This guy is now driving a motorcade or a Pragya or whatever it is because they went to Galamsey and all of that. So it is economically attractive for many people. And people will tell you there are about 1.5 or 2 million Ghanaian youth involved in Galamsey. So the numbers are quite huge. And so when we're talking about Ghanaians, they are part of it. But I'm saying that the end game is going to be devastating for our country. And therefore, the government must just take the bull by the horn, as they say, to ensure that the right thing is done. Before this proliferation of Galamsey, Ghanaians were alive, young people, yes, people don't have jobs and so on and so forth, but it didn't collapse this country. It is possible to end Galamsey and ensure that the country would still move on. Otherwise, we will look on like this, and in the next 10, 15 years, the consequences will be so dire. And as I said, it is not as if it is impossible. It is difficult, but it is possible to have it done. Otherwise, why would they even start the whole process and then end up dying the way it happened?
But right. Ms. Brown, I want to find out, if you were to consult for the government today on how to end Galamsey, what would be your proposals to them?
My proposal would be that, first of all, the law will be enforced, because in many places, and this is a fact, and very soon we'll be coming up with reports to prove this, in many places, it's just a swap. Folks who were aligned to the MPP were the ones, controlling the Galamsey sites. And now it is NDC people who have taken over. So if the government really has the commitment and the determination to end it, the first thing is to ensure that all those constituency youth organizer, constituency this, zonal coordinator of this, and so on and so forth, are pulled out, or the law made to work against them. When that happens, it's not anybody who will ask those people who were maybe previously using MPP as the alibi to be in the Galamsey sites to move out. The government just has to act. It is difficult. People feel, when the MPP was there, their members were using Galamsey too. See this person, he has done this, he has done that, as a result of Galamsey, and it is because his government was in power. Why is it that when our government is in power, then we are supposed to now be moved out of the pit, and so on and so forth? It requires a bold decision. I know it is not easy, but like I'm saying, it has to be done. When the president talks about resetting is not something that is going to be very easy. But, I think that he means it, and I believe that he should do it, and it can be done. If I were to consult for the government, I would say, look, let's go for, the NDC folks, get them out, and once they get out, the others will follow them.
Okay. Dr. Abedu, it's your time now to reflect on the way we treat farmers in this country and all the other stories that have come up. I mean, for me, it's just interesting to know that the award scheme has evolved over the years. It used to be giving them Wellington boots and the rest. Now, sometimes they get tractors, and ADB is giving 1 million Ghana cedi cash. But whether or not, generally, it's good incentive for people to venture into agriculture is the question. But your take on the matter?
Yes, Susie, thank you very much. Just to touch briefly on the Galamsey and then delve into those issues, because they all end up in talking about livelihood and then employment. You see, I agree perfectly with Sulemana. Now, the issue has been extremely polarized, okay? And though we can talk about the investors, the higher level political figures who are having business interest in Galamsey activities, and we have made noise over this several times. But it's just like he has mentioned, it's just about a shift from one hand to another. But what is becoming more critical also is that the very party folks who mobilize voters at the community level are either in support or are involved in the activities. And so what it means is that when you tell the locals to stop, now these same persons will tell you that if we stop, we are not able to mobilize votes for you, because these Galamsey guys are the ones we tend to mobilize both resources, human and material resources, whatever, when it comes to elections or vote. And so the politician must detach himself or herself from Galamsey in the first place and be ready to face the consequences. That is going to help a lot in ensuring that when the laws are being applied, then the issue of human face, the issue of this is my boy, this is my party person, begin to go away, because the law will just work and nobody else will be interested. In the other side, which will end up not helping make the law be very effective. Now, in terms of the farmers and the award schemes and all that, you see, recently when the Cocoa Board, for example, the issue came up that we are going to award scholarships to tertiary students, children of cocoa-growing areas, when this announcement came up. One question that I asked myself is, what have we been doing in terms of reintegrating these awardees? Supposedly, let's even assume that they are children or they are from cocoa communities and they have been awarding them scholarship at the SHS level. What has been the scheme in reintegrating back into cocoa farming after they have enjoyed the scholarship? Do we train them to now move away from the communities to now seek for white-collar jobs, or do we train them to go back into cocoa farming, this time bringing their knowledge and expertise that they've learned into cocoa farming to grow the sector? The same question now, the scholarship for the tertiary students. What kind of courses are we going to sponsor them? Are you going to give the scholarship to, so that when they go and then read those courses at the university level, they can come back, bring their expertise, the knowledge they've learned, to even support their parents or their families, their communities, or they themselves re-engaging in the farming activities, so that they will be able to improve or increase productivity based on what they have learned. Or we are going to sponsor them, give them scholarships to go and learn other programs, which will end up encouraging rural-urban migration. Now the youth will not be interested in going back into cocoa farming, and then they have enjoyed scholarships. And then every time we are talking about cocoa production decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. So we need to be very careful about the way, this whole motivation, the way we are going about in terms of our cocoa sector, the entire agricultural sector.
Right.
So that whatever intervention we give, it will come back in serving as motivation, as incentive for the agri sector in its entirety to grow. If not, we will be doing things just in the name of we are supporting, we are government is doing this, government doing that, but it will not eventually lead to the benefit of the very sector which we want to improve or grow.
Thank you. And just to rush to the remaining papers before I hand over back to you, Kojo. The Ghanaian publisher has these stories. MP blast GFA's term extension, backward, he calls it backward and shameful. And government shuts down Wuntumi Station on the helicopter victims. Mahama sets up fund. All these stories we've actually discussed. But I want to get some details on this GFA term extension and why Vincent Ekwasefo is calling it backward and shameful. And the story is actually on page 11 of the Ghanaian publisher. And it says, the ranking member on Parliament's Youth and Sports Committee, Vincent Ekwasefo, has condemned the Ghana Football Association's decision to extend the presidential term limits from 2 to 3, describing it as, quote, backward and shameful. The amendment, approved during the GFA's 31st Ordinary Congress in Pampram, allows a president to serve a maximum of 3 4-year terms, totaling 12 years, instead of the current 8. And that's what Vincent Ekwasefo is opposed. Like he thinks it's backward and shameful. Instead of 8 years, now you get about 16 years. But if you want to reflect on this, you can get a bite on it, Dr. Abedu.
Yes, very well. It's a very interesting development from the GFA. I'm personally very interested in sport. Recently, when the partnership between the FA and I think one station, one production to help in terms of the media production and they help the local league to improve. I think I listened to a lot of the speeches that was held by Honorable General Dobra and the FA president and all the guys who went there. I agree to some people that Okweto is doing quite well in terms of some support or interventions or some strategies that he's putting in place at the FA. So, for example, I read that clubs, the winner of the next league is going to get about 2 million Ghana cedis, which is an improvement. And some buses being given from teams which did well, 11 Petima 11 Wonders and All Blacks and all that. For every leadership, you have a time to go. There's always a terminal period for whatever you do. The fact that you may be praised or you are being accorded with all the good accolades because you are doing well, game changer and all that, does not necessarily mean that you ought to be there forever. Look,
yeah, but it's the entire, it wasn't his decision alone. I mean, if you listen to how they came about that amendment, it looks like it was a consensus. Most of them agreed.
It was 114
yes.
as against 124.
So it's not his, like Afenyo Makino say, whimsical and capricious intentions that brought this result.
You and I understand those games very well. Okay. When a leader wants to manipulate something in his or her favor, there are ways to go about it. Okay. So yes, it's by consensus, but he is the one working with these people. So ask yourself, what did he do to win their support in that sense? And even he as a leader, assuming that he's a true leader, could he have said that, look, no matter what I'm doing, no matter how much you believe in what I'm doing, I still believe in my 2-term, and when I'm done, let me go, let another person come and succeed. What happens also from that side?
Well, that's our time, though. Let me give Suleiman Abrahima the chance to also get a bite on this, and then we can go. Mr. Abrahima, what do you say on this subject of GFA's term extension from 8 years now to 12 years? And the arguments pouring in,
It's not a subject that I would say I'm too much invested in. I think that over time, the worrying development has been that our football has been on the downward trend, which is extremely worrying. I don't know whether term limit extension is what is going to salvage the situation. I think what is important is that the leaders there now must ensure that the right things are put in place to ensure that our football is back on the right footing, so that we all love our football. It unites us quite a lot. And so it's too sad to see that Ghana is not doing quite well. And obviously, even if you're a Black Stars supporter, you must be honest with yourself and say, look, we don't have the players that we used to have, the quality of players that we used to have. And therefore, even if we are playing a match and you say you are supporting the Black Stars, you are just doing that for the sake of being a citizen, and convinced that they can really do well. So term extension or not, I think what's important is getting our football back and being recognized as a powerful football nation on the continent. For me, that is what is critical.
Okay.
Yeah, so, the critics ask that, what changed from that 2019 amendment that brought him into power, that now you have to go back to 3 years? Because they say, we came back to 2 years based on an experience. So what has changed? But we'll leave that to the football lovers. But briefly on the custodian, it says BOG shames gold for oil. Critics and MPP organizers pick up Baumea's nomination forms today. Education fund for children of chopper crash victims soon. U.S. Embassy deepens ties with Prim Park, and Malcolm donate 25 medical fridges to hospitals. So
okay, well, gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining us. We had Dr. Kwame Asasante. He is a political scientist and the head Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. We also had Dr. Pakwesi Abedu. He's a development analyst, and Suleiman Abrahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Thank you all so much for joining.
Thank you and have a good day.
Okay, so we'll take a break now. When we return, we get straight into our big stories, and you want to stay with us for the nitty-gritty of that all-important subject matter. We'll be right back.
Professor Kweku Dako Amponsa is also an ASO prof at the College of Education. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Simon, I'll start with you. Sorry. Oh, I didn't add a professor.
No worries.
So when we say pen ceremony, what is it?
So pen ceremony is a ceremony to award people who have transited from senior lectureship position or rank to associate professor rank.
Okay.
So our provost, Professor Niadi Kujo, instituted this, and the first one was done last year. So, well, not many people get the opportunity to get to the top, that is to be a full professor or professor, but what we normally call full professor. So the pen ceremony at least allows people to also be showcased, to also get the opportunity to share their works, and to also get the opportunity to encourage young academics.
Okay, I remember last year we had the award. You are on, is that
honorees?
Honorees, yes. So you two are part of the honorees. Last year we had them here too. Now, for you, Professor Darko, what does this bring to your career as an academic?
It's actually a motivation. Like I always say, I got to know about pen ceremony from Professor Ani Adekujo. That was the first time last year that I heard about pen ceremony. And like Prof has just said, it motivates you to do more academia, and also motivates your students to learn or to try to get to that position or to get into academia and then to get to the ultimate. Yeah. If there's no award or even if there's no recognition, there's no way people will be motivated to do more. So the pen ceremony is about writing more, doing more research, therefore being recognized for your efforts. Thank you very much.
So when you were informed that this is going to happen and you were part, since you said this is a motivation, how did it come to you?
Yeah, I was really very happy because look, in the whole of the College of Education, my department is the most diversified, and I've been HOD for 4 years, and I run so many programs in the department. So the stress is not very easy. So to be able to write with this kind of stress and be able to get to that level, it is just by the grace of God. I always say in Zechariah chapter 4 verses that, Zerubbabel was born in Babylon and he led the rebuilding of the temple. But he thought he had the best army and then a number of resources. And God told him that Zerubbabel, it is not by might, it's not by power, but it is by my spirit. And it is the Spirit of God which has kept me this far to this point.
Quite interesting. Professor Aito, for you as someone who was once a distance student, and a lot of times when you meet distance students, that drive to say, I know I am made to excel, or I am born to excel, you don't seem to get it. But you moved from being a distance student to getting here. So how does this, come to you as someone who's now being honored from rising through the ranks to becoming an ASU prof?
Okay, thank you very much. So my background is an interesting one. I actually started my career as a basic school teacher, teaching in our family school, and then going through the teacher training college. Well, the best teacher training college, Presbyterian Training College, Equiapem, Ekropon Equiapem. I know Prof may disagree with me, but there is no banter on this. So my father advised me to go through the distance education mode because we had a school. So I've risen through being a student, and I became a tutor, then UCC, then I became a senior staff, became a lecturer, and I lead a lot of programs when it comes to distance education, and I research in that space. In fact, we have a lot to do when it comes to distance education in Ghana, and I'm actually trying to champion a course to have a distance education law in Ghana. You realize that distance education is not being treated the way it should be treated. Okay. And with my background, legal background, I also see a lot of gaps. All because we don't have the right policies, we don't have the right laws in place. So people tend to be very confused, see distance learning programs as regular programs, and I think that is really not fair. And we can do a lot to make it happen. And that is the future, whether we like it or not. You are here always working. You can't be on campus regularly. So whether we like it or not, the regular system, we've also introduced some distance education principles. I mean, post-COVID, that is where we are. All these things we call evening school and morning school and all that, we have some elements of distance education, but I think we are not doing it the right way. And the regulators will have to up their game, strengthen things, and get a distance education law like we have in the UK and in India and even in South Africa. Then things will be in perspective because, we are all not running distance education the way we should run it in Ghana.
So what should your rise, what should this pen ceremony, which you are being honored as part of those who have moved from senior lecturers to the professorial rank, serve to your student? What lesson should your students pick from this honor?
Well, there is something we call parity of esteem. Your mode of studies has nothing to do with, quality. Even though, practically, when we are teaching, sometimes we tend to think that if one studies through a particular mode, he is getting an inferior qualification. But there is what we call, as I said, parity of esteem. It doesn't matter whether you learn via online, evening school, regular school, the content is still the same. So distant learners should not think that, it's an inferior way of acquiring your certificate. And then those who are also on the regular mode should also not think that maybe DS is better and all that. So at the end of the day, it's about the content. And I think universities don't really compromise when we come to the content. Okay. So that is why I feel we should have a better regulatory system so that we get the best out of distance learners. Because at least we have a lot more experienced people who use that to acquire their certification.
All right. Professor Dakwamponsa, when is this pen ceremony happening?
Happening tomorrow at 4 p.m. At the Auditorium, University of Ghana.
And what will be happening?
Well, there are 6 associate professors who will be recognized by the university for that ability to get to that level. It's not very easy.
Yeah. You spent 7 years doing your master's, didn't you? So it's not easy.
It's not easy.
You need to be honored. Yeah. Okay. So is it open to everyone? It's open to everyone.
Yes.
We can all come there to be part of it.
At a great hall.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm grateful to you, profs, for coming. Professor Simon Peter Kafuya Heto is with the College of Education, University of Ghana. Professor Kweku Dakwamponsa is also with the College of Education, University of Ghana. They will be honored at the pen ceremony, which will be coming off tomorrow at 4 p.m., right? At the Auditorium, University of Ghana. Which auditorium? Because I know there's a Great Hall. Okay. All right. So that does it. This is still the AM show. We'll take a break here. We will be back with more here on the show Tuesday.
Well, today is exactly a week since that tragic helicopter incident that we lost the lives of 8 patriots too. And the presidency has announced some preparations in terms of deep coverage and all that, and how we are going to handle the burial of the remaining 6. We know that a few days ago we buried the 2 Muslim patriots, and it's Friday is the time for us to bury the remaining 6. We want to engage Shamima Muslim, and he speaks for the presidency. We want to understand what the preparations are and how we can all be involved. And Shamima, thank you for joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Very good morning. Sweetie, is it you?
It's me, Shamima. It's been a while. How are you?
It's been indeed. I'm well.
Great. So, Shamima, first of all, we saw that statement that was released on Monday from the presidency communications detailing exactly what the funeral rites would be and media coverage. But let's start from what are the plans a week on? Is there something special happening today to mark the 1 week after the tragedy? Otherwise, we can move straight into the details of the Friday burial.
Very well. Thank you very much. Indeed, the nation is still in mourning as we are all witnesses with the continuous coverage, various receive leaks that mostly the final right this not on Friday. And as happened immediately after the news came in, on that ill-fated Wednesday last week, the presidency continues to hold the ceremonial gatherings open to the general public, who continue to flood in on a daily basis to also pay their respects to our fallen heroes in front of the Jubilee House. So that is still ongoing. Also, across the various homes of the departed, as well as the institutions they work with, there are books of condolences that have been opened. So we continue to invite the general public to visit and also pen down some heartwarming words, especially at the various homes if you can, so that at a later time it will be a source of comfort to especially the spouses and the children. Whilst we are at it, the funeral committee has also been hard at work. As you referenced earlier, yesterday, in line with Islamic tradition, which was 3 days after the burial, the Honorable Murtala Mohammed held his adwa and special prayers for him in Tamale. At the same time, in Accra, at the home of Alhaji Muniru Muna, his family also held Quranic recitation for him as well. And on Friday, as we have announced, is the official state funeral service that would include elements for the Muslim victims as well as the Christian victims. We expect all to be seated by 8 a.m. at the Independence Square, Square, as others call it, and the service is expected to commence as early as 8, because we have quite a lot of biographies and tributes to go through. So we expect the general public to please cooperate. We'll be announcing today or tomorrow the various road closures and arrangements in terms of accessing the venue. And for the media, those who intend to have access to the inner perimeter would need to apply for accreditation. Otherwise, within the grounds behind the sitting arrangement, the media has an allocated screen where they'll be giving a clean feed to provide live coverage of a nation that is mourning and that will be honoring the memory of 8 courageous Ghanaians.
Shamima, let's pause on the accreditation for a bit. According to the statement, you actually, like you said, it's limited accreditation that will be granted to media men. And what goes into this? What criteria are you using to silt or to give out these accreditations? However limited.
The media committee is working on that, and we've done that in the past, so it will be as representative as possible.
Okay, you can proceed. You were talking about the preparation, so I just wanted to have clarity on the accreditation bit.
Very well. So I think that really is what we are hoping to see is an orderliness that is reflective of the somber nature of the event, and also discipline from everyone that would want to come out on Friday to also sympathize and mourn with the President of the Republic and the families of the bereaved. While we are at it, we're also still appealing to the media especially and to the general public to continue providing dignified coverage of all the events from last Wednesday till now. May we desist, or what do you call it, from any temptation to want to share any of those earlier gory photos and images, so that we can remember them in the color that their life, was all about. So please, also for the sake of the families let us be sensitive in the ways that we report the insensitive comments that have come from some members of the society is unbefitting of the nation that we should all be proud about. So please, that's the appeal to the citizens. And also for the vehicles to know that please obey the police and cooperate with the police when they are giving you directions. And so it's best to come early so you have somewhere to park a bit closer to the venue and then make your way to the arranged sit-in.
Shamima, can you give us, a mental picture of how that ceremony will go? When we come in there in the morning, what will be happening till we leave?
As we have seen with similar, even though this is a bit different because we do have an interface sort of service going to happen. And if you also recall the bits of that held, the kinds of reflections and memorial, it was reflective of the various states of departed Ghanaians. So we would have a blend of that. There will be some Quranic recitations for the Muslim victims, and then there will be a service sort of with the various themes and prayers from the Bible. So the officiating clergy is there, and then we also have the officiating imam. So again, a reflection of who we are as a people in our diversity, in our difference, and yet bound by our common humanity as a people, and ensure that our country heals and recover from its division.
We know that since the incident, some presidents from neighboring countries have been coming in to commiserate with the president. At this particular event on Friday, are we expecting any of these leaders to be part of the event?
The protocol department will give us the final briefing on which dignitaries to expect later today. So we'll be able to communicate that a bit later on.
Does that mean already some are in the country?
There is a political party forum happening. We've had a few dignitaries present at that. I don't know as yet if any of them will confirm to stay till Friday. But we did have the Sierra Leonean president come through, and the Sao Tome president also did visit the president when he came into the country.
So Friday, 8 a.m., some possible roads closed. But is there a specific color we should? I know Ghanaians usually just wear black, but are we making it compulsory? What should we wear if we want to attend the funeral?
I think you should wear whatever you wear when you want to mourn. For Muslims, we really don't have a color for mourning, so people would come in their abayas and jalabiyas and whatever it is. But for Christians, I know usually the color for your mourning is black as we have seen. So,
but it's not compulsory, you're saying. It's open. You just wear whatever you're comfortable in to go and join this national funeral rite. Well, yes. Shamima, thank you. If you have any final words, something you've left out, this will be the time to put it out there.
Just again, on behalf of His Excellency the President, extend his deepest sympathies and condolences to all the families, the wives, the children, the parents, the constituents, and the friends of all our 8 departed Ghanaians. We extend his deepest condolences and his assurance of his commitment to be for the families and to do for the public what is right by them, what their loved ones would have done for them. announced yesterday about the education fund for all the children of the departed comrades and heroes, and also to extend his gratitude to the people of Ghana for bearing him up and his family in prayer, the entire government, praying for his government, for his appointees, members of the ecumenical society, the churches. They were at his residence. They prayed with him. They prayed for him. They prayed for the nation. They prayed for the government. And their words were reassuring. They declared that his government will succeed and that he will deliver on the mandate that the people of Ghana has given him, even as he wears this heavy crown and this burden that has come his way, because it's a personal loss to him himself. So he thanks the people of Ghana, to the faith communities, to the imams that have also prayed, with him and for the nation. And his appeal is that we should continue to pray for this country so that this country will truly heal. And in the end, we'll give all glory to God Almighty.
Thank you so much. Shamima Muslim is Deputy Presidential Spokesperson, and she joined us for details on what to expect on Friday at 8 a.m. She said some roads will be closed, and tomorrow they will announce exactly which roads will be closed. But wear whatever you want, be seated early and on time so that we can respectfully lay the remains of those 6 soldiers to rest. Kojo, that's our time now for this conversation.
Right, this is a solemn one, so we want to keep it at that. But let's all meet on Friday, come early, so that we can pay our last respects to the departed.
Today is going to be a heavy day for a few people who were really close to the departed 8, because it's exactly 1 week that this tragic incident happened to us. Let's just remember them in our thoughts and prayers and ask that God Almighty heals them. Let's take
that day, it's around 8:55 now. We had no idea what was happening.
In fact, we had closed the show.
Yeah.
I had gone home.
Yeah.
Ah, well, that's life.
So for the family, as we say, may the good Lord himself console them, because he's the only one who can console them in this time. No words from anyone, especially when today is Wednesday and they know that it was a day today. I'm sure by now, some of them will be saying goodbye to their wives, their family.
Say, it's just Obuasi, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll be right back. Especially when we're told that Alhaji Lumuna had even told his family exactly what he wanted that evening. So may the good Lord himself console them in the spirit. It won't be easy.
Yeah. So stay with us. We'll take a quick break. When we return, there's more on the AM show. We'll be right back.
Welcome back from the break. Let's move into our big stories today. And we want to understand what exactly led to the crash of the Z9 military helicopter and the controversy surrounding, the breaching of the search and rescue protocols of this country. Remember, we're being told that in 2008, this protocol was, established. But did we really follow that particular one? We'll be hearing from a retired, Air Force personnel who really understands the operations of this aircraft and what have you. But we'll start with our lead data analyst here, Isaac Ofieje, giving us a 3D illustration of exactly what we do know about where the incident happened. You know that it's been exactly a week when this happened. Kofi J is joining us in studio for us to do this. Kofi, let's understand, what we do know we've been able to capture about where this happened.
Well, Kojo, before we even do this, I think that it's important for us to issue a disclaimer that what we're about to do is not to feed into any form of speculative analysis. What we are here to do is to visualize what we know based on the data we have gathered ourselves, based on what our reporter, the coordinates, our reporter who was on the grounds, reported live, gave us. Also, expert opinions like Captain Wing Command Retired Sogbodjor also gave to us in most of the interviews.
Of course, we'll be speaking to
absolutely.
him. Yeah.
And then also Colonel Retired Festus Abuaji himself and other aviation experts have spoken about the issue. And our job as journalists is to explain some of these complex issues for you to possibly understand and visualize all the things that I've said so far, what we know about where the aircraft took off, where it was expected to land, at what point did it crash, what time was it expected to get to the place. Based on this data is what is informing what I'm about to do on the smart wall, and that is not to feed into any form of speculative analysis. So we go to the smart wall straightforward. So what we decided to do is to use this data that we've gathered to possibly help you understand what went on that day. So we understand the Z9 helicopter belonging to the Ghana Air Force, registration number GHF631, left this place in the Greater Accra region. So I'm taking you to the Air Force base where the aircraft actually took off. This is the Air Force base that the Z9 took off on its way to Obuasi. And based on the data we have gathered, we understand, and what we know is that the helicopter was expected to land somewhere, around the Lenkley Sports Stadium in Obuasi. So I'm taking you to the Lenkley Sports Stadium. This is the Lenkley Sports Stadium in Obuasi where the helicopter was expected to land. And we understand the estimated time is around 50 minutes, according to the data that we have gathered from experts. Is that if you look at the distance between the Air Force base and that area, that's about what we have done the calculation using the Google Earth Pro that gives you some form of estimation. That entire journey is about 180 kilometers. 180 kilometers from the Air Force base. And what we also do know is that based on the coordinates that we got, the live direction and location that we got from our reporter who was on the ground, gives us the exact point or the exact area where the crash actually happened, and that gives us that form of ability to estimate how far the pilot had actually gone into that journey, how many of the journey has he actually covered. We understand that he was almost at about 93% of the journey heading to Obuasi, looking at it relative to where the crash point that we have so far. And so if you do the math, we are not saying that's the exact speed of the aircraft, but based on the distance expected to be covered, and we know that as the crow flies, if you use that as an estimation, we understand that the speed of the helicopter, based on the data we've gathered, the distance and the expected time of crash, listening to eyewitness and experts who have spoken on the issue, that speed was between 204 kilometers per hour and somewhere around 234 kilometers per hour to possibly get to the Lenkley Sports Stadium. This is where the aircraft was expected to land. But we all know what happened on that day where the unfortunate incident happened. So let me take you to the crash point. So what we have done is to map out the crash point using the coordinate that we got from our reporter, Bright Quick, who was on the ground. This was the exact location that he was, and it gives an indication that the crash point was, some distance ahead. So that's why we've actually mapped this entire area in yellow for you to understand that if you are using the ICAO principle, which gives you a certain radius to work with, we have actually even gone beyond that radius to extend the location. So just look at the terrain of the area, the crash point that we are seeing so far. Let me give you a 3D analysis again for you to understand. This is a place, right? And you can see Sikaman, which I'll show you very soon. But if you see any line in red, it shows you the mountain range. It means that this is the mountain range between the Air Force Base in Accra and Obuasi in this direction. So if you want to get to Obuasi, definitely you have to either get over this mountain before you get to Obuasi. Because this is a range. It's not one place. Let's look at the mountain range proper for you to understand the whole point. So you see the range over here. And let me illustrate for you. So you see the mountain stretching from this point going to this direction. Very, very long. And from the crash point, what you see is Sikaman. That became that central point in terms of the town that was used where the whole thing happened. They landed here. I mean, all those who came to who actually visited the crash point had to come to Sikaman before walking to the crash point.
Between Sikaman and the crash point, no community. All of that vast area is our farmland.
That's why it explains why it took so long, possibly for the armed forces to get to the crash point. So just look at the distance between Sikaman and the crash point. And just like you said, between the crash point and Sikaman, you see vast area, all of these areas being forest zones, right? Whether it's semi-deciduous, we don't know, but this is what we know. What we know is that the distance between the crash point and Sikaman very, very far, based on the estimation that we have. If you take a look at it again, you see, this is a crash point, and this is Sikaman. Definitely tells you that. Well, we can talk about let's say about, when we did the calculation, it was around 3.2 kilometers. And so it will take you, if you are walking, that's about, let's say, 2 hours to possibly get to this place. But if you are flying, then it will be relatively lower if you are looking at the time of travel. Let's also look at the Anglo Gold Stadium or Park. Why is this important? Because we understand that the helicopter was expected to land somewhere around the Lenkley Sports Stadium. And this was another alternative place for it to land in case it had to find another place, because there are so many, parks in Obuasi that they could have landed before. So you can see the white line. It shows you that the AGA's, park is ahead of the Lenkley Sports Stadium where it was expected to land. So you see the line even between the AGA stadium and the Lenkley. Also, what we understand is that if you look at the crash point proper, Kojo, let's analyze the mountain we are seeing here, right? For us to understand the magnitude of this obstacle. We don't know what happened. Whether the plane was flying so low and crashed into the mountain, that's one scenario. Another scenario could be that it was already above it. Got some mechanical fault, dropped. Nobody knows what really happened. But what we know is that it crashed around this area. That is the fact we know. But other fact, what caused it, whether it crashed, whether it actually exploded midair, nobody actually knows. We are waiting for that sort of investigation to actually happen. But what we know is that this is the area that it happened. And we've been trying to look at the height of the area to understand.
Just hold on there for us. We'll come back to you. Let's bring in Wing Commander.
Commander Patrick Nelson Sogbodjor. He's retired Ghana Air Force officer. And sir, thank you for joining us on the AM show this morning. We're just trying to understand the details of where the helicopter moved from, where they were supposed to land, and where they crashed. We do not know, like our lead data and research analyst was saying, we do not know exactly what happened. But that's why I want to talk to you. You've been giving the research team some information. We want to understand from your perspective, what do you think really went down here?
Well, good morning to your cherished listeners who are viewing you now. But to begin with, I've been looking at the assessment being given to you by your colleague. But in flying, before you take off, you look at your topography and plan your flight. And minimum, you must be a separation from the highest point. So there's no way this helicopter, from what I'm seeing, would have flown on a treetop to go and hit a tree. Minimum, there will be 1,000 feet separation of the highest object, whether on top of the mountain or low. No pilot to fly, unless specifically the helicopter will send either to go and draw something, it has to descend and fly on treetop. Other than that, in navigation, he wouldn't have gone that low and fly into a tree. I hope I've explained this to you. So much as it's shown that the place was heavy forested, we don't think the pilot, at his own peril, will be flying on treetop. And in Ghana, I've said it, I don't have any tree which is 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet. And since we didn't see any blast in the air until the crash happened, they will also rule out the possibility of the aircraft being blasted by an object before it hit ground. It's a fact that it ran to a tree. But we must know what happened for the airplane to lose sight and come down to hit a tree. That's the main thing that we have to find out. And I think that can be only gotten from the black box when it's decoded. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. But has it been confirmed that it hit a tree, or you're looking at all the information coming in to say that it possibly could have hit a tree?
Whatever happened, the aircraft came down. It came down into a heavy forested area. Whether it hit a tree first or maybe engine failure, anything, he lost height and he dropped into the forest.
Okay.
Commander, you're saying that simulation we saw circulating on social media, it painted a picture that there's a tree so high that the helicopter sort of hit it before crashing. That is just wrong. It cannot be a possibility.
Wrong.
Okay.
No, I will fly tree top and go and run into a tree. You do your navigation, and I'm saying there's a separation height. This same map you're using, you have to fly minimum 1,000 feet above the highest point.
Okay. And you're saying that there could have been some probable cause.
He was going to say something.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Unless a suicidal pilot. But in all my life, I haven't seen that many suicidal pilots who take off and do about 80% of the journey and decide to go and push the aircraft into a tree. And he's not alone. There are two pilots in cockpit, and they have the same console. Say maybe one wants to behave, the other one can take it over. But we're talking about split seconds. It's not hours for a helicopter without power to drop into trees. Gravitational force alone will need to come back in seconds. It's not like he had all the time. It's possible maybe he had some problem and was trying to elevate the helicopter. It wasn't going up. He will fall. And when you fall into the forest area, you just go down. The foliage will cover you. I hope you are getting me.
Yes, please. We got that bit. So now that we know that there's no tree high enough to have caused this crash, it's not possible too that there was a blast, because we didn't see anything like that in the air. So what does that leave us? Sorry?
So if there were to be a blast, the wreckage would only have been found on one place.
Okay.
Carter. Okay? The only thing we can do is that Ghanaians should be patient. The black box will be taken to manufacturer. They will open and decode it. And the information will be sent to the operator. And even this information is the confidential information. Whether the ministry decides to make it public, yes. But it's not 2-3 day affair. If you remember recently, there was a crash between a jetliner and a military helicopter in the States, in the Hudson. Even in America, it took some time before the details came out. So let's have patience. Let the investigative body of inquiry, the opening of the black box, come down, and then we can deduce what happened.
How much time do you think this would take, approximately?
No idea. He's going to China and then to come back. I have no idea. I just gave an example of what happened in the United States. Even in the United States, where they have radars and all things all there, it took some time for them to get the results out. So I'm saying we should be patient. It's not just opening your diary and the information in there you just read. The manufacturer has to open it. And I think the black box maybe by now has arrived in China for them to start working on it. So we need patience.
And if you are looking at the distance between Obuasi and the Air Force Base, in such a flight, do you think that you need extra fuel? Would there be fuel on board? And how much are we looking at?
Every pilot flying, first you check your fuel. They will not give you a flight when you don't have enough fuel. You won't take off half fuel. These are things, the prerogative of the pilot. You do your standard checks, internal checks, you check your fuel, everything before you take off. Because helicopter can land anywhere, but provided it's a big space enough for it to land. If there's no space for it to land and it's flying over a forested area, in anything, it can't hang in, there has to come down. And this will be the first time that maybe choppers have gone over that route.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not the first time. We've been flying VIPs and other military over several years. But I must also say that the safety record of Ghana Air Force is pretty high, very, very high. We are respected. You know, but this is the second fatal helicopter crash. One happened at Tiwa about 20 plus years ago, the same situation. But also, most probably understand, no pilot wants to go and die or intentionally go and crash and kill himself and kill people. So let us be patient and wait for the black box.
Yeah, I think the question Kofi wanted to find out was that earlier we were told that it could have been possible that this helicopter would be carrying extra fuel.
Yes.
So we wanted to find out, is it possible that the helicopter could be carrying extra fuel to aid it on its return journey?
If it was carrying, what was it going to store it? Where was it going to store the extra fuel? There's no space for that.
Okay.
I'm saying that when pilots are flying, you make sure you have enough fuel for your endurance and even emergency if you have to divert. If you come into Accra, for example, and Accra airport is closed, the nearest is Lomé, and it's mandatory that you should have alternate airfield, and you have enough fuel to get there.
Now, you were given, procedure how in such a circumstance when VIP tax, you get a VIP tax, what goes into the selection of the pilot, the aircraft, and all of that?
I think I did that. First of all, the Air Force will not put unqualified pilots to perform a task. We'll have airplanes who have the pilots, and when the task comes, they look at or they select a pilot who is qualified, take that mission, and he flies it.
There have been issues.
And this particular squadron leader was qualified, had gone to the United States and done several upgrading courses. Your capability was far above what happened. But accidents are accidents.
This accident, some have speculated that it was caused by bad weather. And we've seen some other forced landing of some helicopters around since this incident. Could bad weather really be a contributing factor to this tragedy?
In the Air Force or everywhere, we have grades of pilots. If he was not qualified to fly in a bad weather, he wouldn't fly. We have licenses, maybe let's say A, B, C, D. And he's all green, that means he can fly in all weather. And I don't think the bad weather was so bad. I mean, you're talking about an aircraft landing in a school. There's a space for it to go and land. But you fly over a forested area, where are you going to land? If maybe the village had a park and a high to attempt to go and land there, that's called a forced landing. Okay? But over the forest, there's nowhere you're going to land except on trees.
Is the landing site, and Kofi, maybe you can help us out here if you can show us that. Is the landing site, the crash site, is it en route to where their final destination was?
In fact, per the analysis we have done, looking at the coordinates we have so far, we understand that if you compare where the crash happened to Obuasi, the distance about 13 kilometers. And looking at how long it took for the plane to crash, that would have taken the pilot at least, and we are using a range here, at least about 4 minutes to get to the Lenkley Sports Stadium. We also understand that if you, relative to the crash point, if you look at the towns or villages before the crash point, we are at a place like Biapompo, Sikaman itself, there was Brofuedu and other towns that the pilot could have landed. But looking at this visualization, he had actually gone past all of these towns before possibly crashing.
So, Commander, you're saying that only the black box can tell us for sure why the pilot or why the helicopter went past all these possible landing sites to go and crash in this forest area. Is that what you're saying? That we can't theorize on what could have possibly caused that route instead of what we've seen?
First of all, a pilot is flying to Boise. He is not flying to Bofridu or anywhere else. He's en route. He didn't divert. If this crash had happened, a village maybe 50 kilometers to 20, then what caused him to go there? There's a route he's flying on. We're flying on a route. We don't divert anywhere. It just happened that this incident happened on top of the forest. It's not that the pilot was searching for somewhere to land. It was due to land in Langley. If they didn't move Langley to another stadium, it's a question of 1/10 of a second. So he didn't go off his track. And something happened for the aircraft to lose sight, to come and hit something on the ground. And I've said that we don't have any trees which are more than 2,000-3,000 feet in Ghana here. So something must have happened. This is what we should concentrate. And our concentration cannot yield any results unless the black box is open, because both of the pilots died.
But from your experience, as you say, what could have happened such that it will just come down at that point where it was?
This is the big question. That is the big question. What happened for it to have come down to so low and maybe went into the woods? That is the question. He fly a constant height until he gets to his destination, then he will hover down to land. What caused helicopter to come below its route, not the route, the altitude, to come and hit the trees in the forest? And it can be answered, assuming one pilot survived or a passenger can give us a verbal or what happened. But this happens and in seconds. It's not like a car being driven for a long period. Planes go up in the air and they are suspended in the air by the rotor power or the fixed wing propellers. When you lose power, you come down. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay.
So that's a possible explanation, loss of power. Okay, so
maybe loss of power for it to lose its height, because it can't be suspended in the air. And if there were to be, like we're saying, a school park somewhere, I don't think the pilot would have loved to die. He would have tried to get down and land the airplane.
Wow.
Well, Commander, I want to also take a look at the response to the crash. Obviously, the site was contaminated because the emergency response protocol in place was not activated. How did you reconcile? Say again.
President, who said it wasn't activated?
Well, and did you think from what we saw versus the protocol that exists? The Ghana Police Service was supposed to be the first people on site to cordon off the area, but that didn't happen. The army was supposed to...
that we have, just a minute, are we still have policemen scattered or soldiers scattered all over the country that instantly they can get there? No.
Well, so I'm doing a comparison between what the protocol says and what we saw, and I want you to reconcile, that for us. What we saw were people trying to, support, rescue or salvage the situation. Nobody really understands why the people poured onto that scene the way they did and contaminated the site. But we do have a protocol in place on who are the first respondents, what should be done after. So comparing what we saw versus what was supposed to be done, please help us understand or reconcile the two.
As soon as something like that happens, the Air Force will push the button for search and rescue to begin. Search and rescue, assuming that this air crash took place on Savannah area or anything without woods, the plane would have been located in a very good time. But when you go over trees, you fall down and even the foliage covers the aircraft. Now, it fell beyond, people should understand there are villages in our forest. It fell down very close to a village, and they were the first people to go there. The 4th Battalion, which is the next point of call, is coming from Kumasi and some security also from Boise. And they said it took them about 2 hours to hack their way into the forest to get there. So there was nothing they could have done. We had a similar situation that Boise years ago, when we located the airplane after 4 or 5 days. We had to bring the 3rd engineers to blast the trees and cut them all down before a helicopter could have gone in. Helicopters can't drop paratroopers in there. They will hang on the trees. They can't do anything. It's the ground forces who get there, and it took them some time. We don't have soldier station around the villages of the police. It's a difficult situation.
Commander, what I hear you say is that, Kofi, sorry, just for clarity, what I hear you say, Commander, is that it is impossible for the police to be the first respondent on the crash site and cordon off the place like the protocol that exists stipulates.
Well, they've come out to tell you that it took them about 2 hours to cut through the forest to get there. We don't have police station in the village.
Yeah, but even when they arrived on site, I didn't see, I don't know if you have, but I didn't see any attempts to secure.
Have a video to cover all what happened? No, we got bits of it.
Okay.
And I think the regional minister having come out the time they got there and what they did. We saw specks of actions. You know, and in uncontrollable situation like a village, they have no idea what has befallen them. They go around it. When you talk about contamination, what type of contamination? What type of contamination were the villagers going to do? Putting the dead bodies in the cocoa sack. That's a different issue altogether. Okay, but it took time, almost 2 hours to hack through the forest. It's not something that you're working about like on the beach or savannah where the plane is sitting there. They crashed through a forest, and the undergrowth is thick.
Kofi.
So they did their best.
That's my question.
Answer your question, okay.
But when Commander, does it mean that, the search and rescue protocol might not necessarily be same if it happens in terrains like it did? So that when we are analyzing, we can put it in context.
Answered the question. If I'm saying if you had crashed into a savannah area, okay, no woods and so forth, or even into water, it's easy to locate. And this is not the first time maybe it's happened. In the deep forest, a plane falls. That's it. It can't be sitting on top of a tree because of the weight, the speed, the impact. So assessing the place was difficult. But it's not that the Air Force didn't push the button for search and rescue. You need ground troops to go there. And the nearest man ground troops can get is from 4th Battalion in Kumasi. And there may be a police station at Obuasi area. But they are saying it took them about 2 hours to get to the spot.
When the Etiwa one happened, you said it was also in the forest. Didn't that give us any lesson for us to plan for such operations when it happens in forest?
Every situation is different.
Okay.
Every situation is different. Etiwa forest maybe is not as heavily forested like what we saw. Every situation is peculiar to each situation. You can't take A and say we should have done this. There are protocols for search and rescue. And this is not the first time the Air Force plane had come down. Since the inception in 1959. And every crash has been well examined, resourced, and then it's publicized. So it's not a question that this happened 2 years ago, therefore we should use the same method, to go and do this one. Every situation is different.
Okay. Do we know what could cause the rotor to lose power?
I have no idea.
Okay.
No one could say it unless you open the black box.
Okay.
Because nobody survived.
I was just asking that maybe based on experience, you could know what can cause the rotor to lose power. That's it.
But the aircraft helicopter stays in there when power is given to the rotor. The rotor is the one who flies against the lift. And for it to come down, then the rotor may be malfunctioned. I'm ruling the possibility of the pilot flying into trees. If it can't happen, what made the airplane to lose power and then come down? The rotor must have failed. But I don't want to be conclusive. What caused the rotor to fail? I don't conclusive. The black box has not been opened yet.
Okay.
Well, there's actually some comparative analysis to be done here. Let's go to 2020, where a similar incident happened to a Z9 helicopter, GHF 30. It had a problem with its rotor and it had to do an emergency landing. And you are also citing that it could be that we had this same aircraft, a similar aircraft also had a rotor problem. When it happened in 2020, do you document some of these things to know what happened to the rotor for them to do that sort of emergency landing? In this case, what could have been the situation?
Let me just ask you a question. Are all car accidents the same?
These are similar models, Z9, Z9 helicopters.
All Mercedes crashes are all the same?
They have similar features.
Please, for heaven's sake, let us get, before a plane flies, all checks are done on it by the technicians. The pilots go there, they examine the aircraft externally and go into it, and before they even start the engine, they do internal checks. They start the engine, they do checks. They lift up, they check that all the parameters in the aircraft are okay. Okay, before he will go. If it's not, he will just say no. The only exceptions are maybe I'm flying from Kumasi to Accra in the daytime, and my landing lights are not working. It's not too important. You can override it. But when specifically there's a problem in the aircraft, the pilot will not fly it.
Let's look at the same 2020.
I'm saying that when you're asking, this is not the first time that we had an aircraft down. And I'm saying accidents are different. We don't know, you haven't been told what happened to the Tiwa one. So you cannot say maybe the same thing happened to this one.
My reference is the 2020 Z9 helicopter that did an emergency landing due to a rotor malfunctioning. In that same incident, you see the same protocol being followed. The pilot did the checks.
What protocol are you doing it? What protocol are you talking about?
No, you said that before a pilot takes off, that's all the protocols.
Don't let's go there. Don't let's go. I say the pilots don't know what they should do. I'm telling you, each accident is peculiar to its situation. In the Tiwa, for example, it was a night, okay? And the pilots are trained to avert these situations. So I say, don't compare accident 1 to 2. They are all different. And don't let's, please, for heaven's sake, bring in theoretical issues. We are trained and properly trained and to hard in bed. But planes fall down all the time, not only in Ghana. It's not so peculiar. When emergency comes, the pilot will do the best to save himself and his passengers. He doesn't want to die. So when you bring a Tiwa and this, please, there are two different scenarios.
Okay. So going forward, once we know that there are some terrains that are difficult for the protocol to work, should this serve as...
Which protocols are you guys talking about? Which protocols?
The search and rescue protocol. And I'm asking...
Well, it will change from 1 to 1. The protocol is the same thing as followed. The recent one, I've told you that the ground force who had to go there had to be activated from Kumasi because you don't have soldiers or policemen scattered around the whole area that immediately they can go and cordon and do this. It's impossible.
Okay.
While I appreciate your arguments, Commander, and actually you've been busting some myths around this and the speculation circulating around, I want to find out, there have been calls for more and newer models of helicopters for Ghana, for the, Ghana Armed Forces and all. Is it possible that some of these helicopters are just too old to be functioning at this point? Do you see wisdom in the calls that people make for newer, more?
The flying is not a newer, older one. These planes were brought in 2015. 10 years ago, they are pretty new. Okay? And besides, the technicians who work on the aircraft and the pilot will know the serviceability, airworthiness of the plane. Airplanes are not like cars. We check the engines by flight time. After every type of hours, this and this should be checked. And all these things were checked before the flight started. So it's not a question of age. Engines have age. The aircraft is the fuselage have their ages. If you take a Boeing 707, or let's take the presidential jet, which is now in France, it didn't mean that the Air Force didn't know what to do. There are checks, but there are some checks that the aircraft should go to the manufacturer. For example, they came and said there was corrosion in the engine and corrosion in the tank. Can you see that with your visual eyes? You can't. So all airplanes are different. Flying hours is what determines the value and airworthiness of the plane. And if you're too airworthy, the Air Force wouldn't use it to fly.
Are you saying that it's never a situation, or it is not possible for an aircraft to be too old to function?
And I've given you two scenarios. The plane where you sit has got its airworthiness time, okay? And the engines have. Some of the planes, they can swap the engine in maybe 2 hours to fly. So these are two things to look at an airplane. The fuselage called the airplane. And then the engine is another time. Then there are some planes that if they are brand new and they don't fly, their components will be changed because of time frame. It doesn't have to be in the air. So the airworthiness of the aircraft was paramount. Other than that, the pilot wouldn't have taken off. It's not the only helicopter we have, the Z. There are a couple of them there. We have the MIs and so forth. So if they didn't have the good helicopter, they would have changed another one. So being old and new is completely out of the question.
Do we need more helicopters?
Well, if you that's on, they will use. Currently, I don't know their numbers they have. But every country spends money on its budget. If the government deems that they should buy new helicopters, yes. But we have planes which have been grounded at the Air Force bases because of age or problem. But the paramount issue is that a human being going to fly that aircraft will not take it on when there's a problem. Certainly, there's no question about that. He will take off when there's a problem on the aircraft.
All right. Well, thank you. Gentlemen, unless you have any other angle to explore with Commander, we want to let him go. No. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wing Commander Sogbodjor, yeah, we appreciate your time on the AM show. So there you have it. He said that it is only the black box, gentlemen, that can tell us exactly what happened. But we can estimate, we can speculate, but let's just wait for the black box.
I think the closest, we cannot get to is that there could be a power loss to the rotor.
Yes.
From the explanation he's
that
given.
We all agree.
Yeah. And that will not be new because I was citing the 2020 incident, which was current President Mahama and his entourage.
Yeah, okay.
Had the rotor malfunctioning and had to do an emergency landing somewhere in Tamale. It was the same Z9 class, right? So that's why I asked him that question. But even beyond the issue of crash, what we saw in our mapping is also very worrying. We understand that they were en route to Obuasi to launch the responsible cooperative mining. But you see here, just some 3.4 kilometers away from the crash point, what you see is a whole place. I mean,
so even along the route itself, they're going to fly.
Sites,
they were going to fly over.
Exactly, Galamsey site. And we were able to actually check this parameter. Okay. And we are talking about more than 200 football fields.
More than 200?
200 football fields. This entire area being degraded as a result of Galamsey activities. You can see pockets of Galamsey activities. It's just about 3 or 3.2 kilometers away from the crash point. So whilst we are talking about what may have caused the flight to come down, another big issue has to do with the issue of Galamsey. And in fact, this can be a whole town, right? And it's sitting right just about 3.4 kilometers away from the crash point. And that tells you the magnitude of degradation we are doing to our forests and land as a result of Galamsey activities.
So if they had crossed to their destination, they would have seen that beneath them, this was what was happening.
Possibly have seen many.
Yeah, and in their minds, it would have been that this is why they are going to launch the responsible community mining scheme. Quite interesting.
Gentlemen, stay with me. I want to invite our audience into the conversation. We want to open the phone lines. You have just about 15 minutes or so to go. So call us and share your thoughts with us on everything concerning this Z9 helicopter crash and how we've dealt with it. It's a week since we lost those 8 soldiers, patriots, and Friday we'll be burying the remaining 6. So call us. The phone lines will be on your screens. any moment from now, and you can join the conversation. Kofi, you know what's interesting is
Tell me, Susie.
that you can clearly see that the forest has been destroyed with what you just showed us.
Let me go back
get
to the Galamsey.
Illegal mining. I just want to stick to illegal mining because this is no longer Galamsey. They're not gathering and selling anything. They're just destroying us. These are ecological terrorists, and we have to start calling them by their right name. What's interesting is that I think the people in that community, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's a community, right?
Yes.
Where you see PIC,
exactly.
is a community.
Yeah.
And then after the yellow line towards the right side, if you can pause, the right side is the forest, correct?
Yes.
Which means that the people are mining so close to the forest, and one line even shows that they are entering the forest
In
itself.
fact, they've already degraded a portion of the forest. So this side is a forest. This is also a forest. So you see...
so they are in the middle of the forest.
They're already in the forest, right? And we have done the calculation. That's a big, big area that is being destroyed. And in fact, that's an unfortunate situation.
Anyway, we have Hamza on the line.
I have Hamza. Hamza, good morning. Thank you for calling.
Good morning.
Let's hear you out.
Sweetie. Good morning, Kojo, and your research analyst. I the Kofi AJ, right?
Yes, Kofi.
Oh, okay. Kofi, thank you for the good work. Kofi, does it mean the yellow signs on the map indicate Galamsey, like illegal mining?
Yep.
That's the perimeter. That's the perimeter that we are looking at.
This is very sad. Well, our condolences to our gallant men who died. May their soul rest in perfect peace. We are sad. We are all sad, but how for do? Life goes on. I remember last week, Tuesday, I watched the video of Murtala Mohammed saying that as a Muslim, he has never wake up a day without thinking about death. And then the next day, Wednesday, he died. We say rest in peace to all of them. May God be pleased with them. They serve their country well. But we are still mourning.
Right. Hamza, thank you for calling, and we appreciate that. So you can also call us, whether or not you just want to share your messages of condolences or not. Call us 0302-211-691. The question is whether or not this has caught the attention of the authorities. Do we know anything about whether or not those who are in charge, so many task forces we have, Blue Water Guards, Anti-Galamsey, NIMOS, and the rest, have this been anything they've said? Have they said anything on this yet?
Not on this particular zone, but I mean, there are so many forest areas.
But I'm sure they are aware.
So many
What do you mean? Could you say they are aware?
Yes, because this is within an assembly. And every assembly knows where there is Galamsey in their assemblies. Because these are places where assembly members are. And the assembly members know what's happening in their jurisdictions. So I'm sure they know.
So what are we doing about
it? In fact, the Galamsey site is just about 1.5 kilometers away from the closest or the nearby town.
You could see it. I think that is what is there. In that little blue there.
Exactly.
Check it there.
Damasu, Kraba also there. I mean, just look at the area. Very, very big and wide there.
We have another caller.
Emmanuel, calling us from Accra. What's on your mind?
Yes, my question is, I wanted to know the difference between the launch of these ministers and the one Akufo government also did, the responsible community mining, and the one the ministers were going to launch. What are the difference?
One is community, one is cooperative.
I actually had a conversation with Pakwesi Shandoff. You know, the tragic thing was I was arranging to meet with
Murtala.
Charlie. Yes, so Pakwesi Shandoff mentioned that the difference is with the cooperative mining, they are going to engage the chiefs, everyone in the community, and bring them aboard, make them responsible for more like keeping the community in check in terms of no one can just wake up and go and mine in a place without the chiefs, the people being in agreement with it. And the government will be working closely with them to give them some returns on the areas in their communities that, you know, the people have licenses to mine. When they mine, they get some returns on that. But because this has not been launched yet, let's just leave the explanation to when they are able to actually launch this proper. And then they'll give us the details, Ima. Thank you for calling. Or do you have any other thing you want to share?
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. Maybe when I get a better explanation.
Yeah, so let's wait and see how the ministry speaks.
So this gives a better perspective.
Let's zoom in and understand the level of degradation. Just look at it. Ponds and degraded lands. Let me stretch.
It still breaks my heart when I see this, but I think some people have developed shock absorbers now, and this no longer moves them, you know. Otherwise, why are we still sitting aloof and twiddling our thumbs and waiting for God
you can
to come
actually
and
see
fix Galamsey
path, right? Where, I mean, roads. Yeah.
You see, the problem, you had, was it Suleiman Abrahima who said that what happened was that, is it transportation? The people who were there in the past have moved and new guys have entered. And so sometimes, if you don't have the political will, it's difficult.
Yeah. Forrest, we have another caller.
Exactly.
Hi, Christian. How are you?
I'm good, City. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Talk to me.
Yeah, my main question is that it's been 7 days after this crash, and at least the military, they must be, if at least a press conference can do, the vast of, we getting information is, too much.
Christian, I don't know if you can speak up. Did you hear him?
No, he says the military is something.
Yeah, I'm saying that it's been 7 days after the crash, and at least me, I think the Ghana forces, a press conference could have been do something to, give us the general view of all the things that was happening.
Well, thank you, Christian. I think you're saying it's been 7 days. You want to hear from the Ghana Armed Forces. Otherwise, then your line is just not clear. We couldn't pick up on that. But I think this is the time where we can extend grace to all the stakeholders involved, right?
Yeah.
In their own time, they will be able to give us a statement. We have Samuel online. Samuel, what about you? What do you have to say? Samuel? You're live on the AM show and don't listen to your TV set. Speak to me directly on your phone.
Yes. I just wanted to suggest a solution. Today's Galamsey Manage.
Okay.
I'm Stephen Doe. I think the government has to pay attention on solving the Galamsey Manage because, one, if the people are monitored by these military guys who comes in and destroy the machines and those things, if they stop and then they come to monitor, do a serious monitoring, and the people have the free will and the liberty to work, they will not be destroying the land and polluting the waters. There will not be any fear on the people to do bad things. So the military has to be deployed, come monitor those things. They should not come and destroy anything. When the people feel that they are free to do the work, they will perform it and do it better, and they will not destroy any water or pollute any water or any land, because there will be guidance and there will be that supervision from the military guys. So the government has to think that way instead of deploying police, soldiers, and those guys to harass and burn all those machines. It won't work. They can do it 1,000 and million years. It won't work. And when they come to supervise, when the military guys are around and they are supervising, the people doing the Galamsey will have the confidence to do it right. That is my suggestion.
Thank you for calling, Christian. And we have, I think, 2 minutes. So if you want to be our next caller, call now. Mohammed, thank you for calling. Have your say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think the guy who just left has taken some of the sales out of my ring about the military being given that at least space to exercise some kind of strength. I don't know, some kind of something that can get people to know or fear, have a fear in them in going into the forest. Because I from my lean experience, I believe that the forest itself should belong to the military. The military must know the in and out in all the corners of our forest. And so I will wish, since some of them have even been perished, and looking at this map as to where the Galamsey sites are and where the helicopter was passing, Sweetie, I can see we are all being cautious as to where to place the blame. But we have been fighting Galamsey not today, and I think it is a part and a root cause of all this kind of unfortunate bad incidents in such a bad omen in our system today. You see, so I think that is what I will have to say. The military must be allowed to exercise some things for me. These guys in the forest, they are not ready to leave at any time. That the military too somehow have become political, and then they go in there. Unfortunately, all of these things. But members of them are dying, so they must wake up and tell us something. Put something in our house. Yeah.
Thank you for calling. In as much as we've had such ideas being populated around, I just think we should be patient. They shouldn't kill.
Dr. Tony says send 3 battalions.
I don't think we are not ready for that.
But the more Kofi zooms into the thing, look, the community. That's why people say all of us. It's about all of us, because look, these guys access these mining sites from these communities. The roads are all there. They are part of it.
Yeah.
Yet,
the community itself is.
I mean, anyway.
Like just external people coming in, but the community members are
doing it. They are benefiting.
Well,
anyway.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure, and thank you for the analysis and bringing the hidden things from the data to us. That's our lead data and research analyst, Isaac
Kofi Ejay. Yeah.
And of course...
But Shuri, just before I beg of you, there's this guy who's watching us from Osiejo. He says I should. So Kenneth Annan, U.S. cement seller in Osiejo New Market. Benyamo ahe na nyamlira Kenneth Annan, cement seller Osiejo New Market in Ahanta West. Good morning to you, brother. Yeah.
Okay. And that's our show for this morning, the Wednesday edition. And remember that we are still mourning our departed 8. On Friday at 8 a.m., the funeral state burial will be happening. And tomorrow we'll know for sure which roads will be closed, because Shamima, who speaks for the presidency, has said that some roads will be closed. You want to stay with us on the Joy News channel, because coming up next is Joy News Desk with Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson. My name is Sweetie Abochi. And that is Samuel Kojo Brace. He's not paying attention, so bye.